Chapter 393. The Aura of the World. Du Guanlin and Luo Bing certainly knew what this aura of the world meant. Longao, have you already broken through to Nirvana rebirth? Just as Du Guanlin said this, he felt that something was wrong. If this person had really broken through to Nirvana rebirth, would he have given them a chance? If this person hadn't undergone Nirvana rebirth, how could he release the aura of the world? How do the two of you feel? At this moment, Du Guanlin and Luo Bing's complexions were gloomy to the extreme. Luo Bing seemed to think of something and ruthlessly said, "If I'm not wrong, then you should be the reincarnation of some super powerhouse." Am I right? Reincarnation? When had he become the reincarnation of some super powerhouse? Longao thought this was a bit funny, but he didn't say anything. It was because of this that the more he acted like this, the more frightened the two of them became. After all, the more mysterious something was, the more they feared it. Longao, just who are you? I want to see the 5 great sovereigns. What did you say? They didn't seem to be able to react in time. After all, the 5 great sovereigns were the true overlords of the City of Sin. They were rarely seen. If everyone could see them whenever they wanted to, wouldn't the 5 great sovereigns be exhausted to death? If Longao dared to say such words a moment ago, he would have been ridiculed and despised. But now, Longao had not only instantly killed a great sovereign but also suppressed 2 world king martial artists. Everyone was well aware that Longao had the qualifications to see the 5 great sovereigns. But having the qualifications was one thing, and whether or not he could see them was another. Longao, don't think that just because you have the aura of the world that you are invincible beneath the heavens. I can clearly tell you that you do not have the qualifications to see the 5 great sovereigns. Is that so? Longao faintly smiled. He looked at the two of them and suddenly said, "If I were to kill the two of you, I wonder if the 5 great sovereigns would appear. With just you." Hearing this, Du Guanlin and Luo Bing crazily laughed, as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. What shameless boasting. You're courting death. Longao didn't speak any more nonsense. This was because he was well aware that if he didn't kill 1 or 2 world kings, then the 5 sovereigns simply wouldn't appear. Since that was the case, they couldn't blame him for being ruthless. He slowly walked towards the 2 world king martial artists. The onlookers all sucked in a breath of cold air because no one had imagined that Longao would take the initiative to attack. What kind of concept was this? To fight 1 against 2, and also 2 world king martial artists at that. In a normal situation, this great sovereign void would have died without a grave. But Longao's situation was a bit special. Not only could he instantly kill a great sovereign martial artist, but he could also release the aura of the world. Du Guanlin and Luo Bing glanced at each other. If they were to join forces, even if they could kill the other party, they believed that they would be looked down upon and despised by everyone. At that time, where would they put their face? What if they didn't join forces? The more confident Longao appeared, the less confident the two of them were. If they were unlucky and the other party was really the reincarnation of an expert, then their lives would be in danger. At that time, even their reputation would be a small problem. On one side was face and on the other was life. How would they choose? To a powerhouse, face was more important than life. But to those who lived in Sin City, life was more important than face. It was because of this that Du Guanlin and Luo Bing chose to join forces and attack together. Du Guanlin and Luo Bing had joined forces. Seeing 2 world king martial artists join forces, everyone sighed and glared at them with disdain. But Du Guanlin and Luo Bing simply ignored all the jeers and contempt. This was because in their opinion, their opponent must have many secrets on him. Whether or not he had the aura of the world, whether or not he was the reincarnation of a powerhouse, as long as they could kill him, then they might be able to obtain some unexpected harvests. And most importantly, this person was too arrogant and unscrupulous. Once this matter spread to the ears of the 5 great sovereigns, the consequences would be unimaginable. Once the 5 great sovereigns blamed them, they would have to bear the consequences. It was because of this that the two of them decided to join forces. No matter what happened, they had to kill the other party. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them were already engaged in a fierce battle. Longao didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. No matter how it was said, these two were still world king martial artists. Beneath their dual domains, the slightest bit of carelessness would cause them to fall into eternal damnation. To an ordinary great sovereign martial artist, the power of a domain might be a lethal weapon. But to Longao, with the suppression of the aura of the world, the power of a domain was nothing but bullshit. However, a world king was still a world king. The disparity in boundary was something that was difficult to make up for. Longao understood this truth, and so did the two of them. It was because of this that Longao attacked again and again, not giving the two any chance to catch their breath. His fists were like a raging storm, his fist strength like a bolt of lightning. Ha ha ha, Longao, I thought you were strong, but it seems that you are nothing more than a paper tiger. As the battle continued to escalate, the two of them finally realized that Longao's true strength was only that of a great sovereign martial artist. They didn't know what sort of dog's hit luck he had stumbled upon to possess the aura of the world. Du Guanlin and Luo Bing weren't idiots. They were well aware that with their opponent's aura of the world, the power of their domains would be useless. Since that was the case, why waste their strength in vain? The two of them didn't continue to rely on the aura of their domains. Instead, they directly released the power of their domains. In an instant, Longao felt as if he had fallen into a quagmire, unable to extricate himself. This was the power of a domain. Longao didn't resist the power of a domain. This was because he knew that while the aura of the world could suppress the aura of a domain, it couldn't suppress the power of a domain. A world king was still a world king. Just their domain alone was enough to show disdain for a great sovereign martial artist. Longao's heart sank. This was the first time that he had truly fought a world king. Now, he finally understood just how terrifying a world king was. But, would Longao choose to give up now? The blood-drinking 8 styles. The first style was Yellow Spring's 9 strikes. The second style was Heart-devouring ice. The third style was Raging Flame Sea. The fourth style was World-extinguishing saber light. The fifth style was Myriad Bones devouring soul. The sixth style was Meteor explosion. According to Longao's strength, unless his cultivation broke through to the World King realm, it was impossible for him to use the seventh style. But now that things had come to this point, Longao was well aware that he had no other choice. The God-slaying mirror, the God-sealing bead, and even the soul attack, Longao didn't use any of them. This was because he wanted to kill his opponent in a single strike and not give them any chance to retaliate. Blood-drinking 8 styles. The seventh style, Tear Heaven and Rend Earth. After forcefully using the seventh style, Tear Heaven and Rend Earth, all of the strength within Longao's body was sucked out and gathered into his hands. At this time, Longao discovered that he had formed some sort of connection with blood-drinking Wild Saber. It was a marvelous feeling. Chapter 394. Blood-drinking's 7th move, Tear the Heavens and Rend the Earth. Longao resisted the waves of weakness that spread through his body. He grasped blood-drinking Wild Saber with both hands and directly struggled against the suppression of the two domains. Did he break free? Du Guanlin and Luo Bing's complexions changed, as if they had expected something. The two World King martial artists turned around and prepared to flee. As for everyone else, they were dumbfounded as they watched what was happening in front of them. Was this really a great sovereign martial artist? A heaven-shaking saber strike, unparalleled. At this moment, Longao stood in the void, his blood-red hair wildly dancing in the wind. His black robes fluttered in the wind and his face was cold and solemn. His body emitted a powerful killing intent that billowed outwards like a surging river. A death god descends, a heaven-shaking saber strike. Longao roared out, his voice like billowing thunder, spreading through the entire city of Sin. At this moment, everyone in the city of Sin looked towards the sky. Even if they couldn't see, they still looked towards the direction of the cry. Countless people didn't know what was happening. Blood-drinking's 7th move, Tear the Heavens and Rend the Earth. The voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. Longao's blood-drinking Wild Saber had already slashed down. A heaven-shaking saber light cut through the air like a meteor, not giving anyone a chance to react. Longao, you. The saber light was too fast and carried with it the sound of rolling thunder. The world changed color, and then, an unbelievable scene occurred. Where the saber light passed, the surrounding space was forcibly torn apart. Black energy roared within. There was no need to test it, just looking at it made one's scalp tingle, as if they were being swallowed up. It was too shocking. Space was torn apart by the saber light. The space crack roared, not caring about anything else. It began to swallow up the surrounding great sovereigns, one after another. In front of the space crack, everyone was an insignificant existence. Du Guanlin and Luo Bing were panic-stricken to the extreme, especially as they saw the massive black hole in front of them. The countless black cracks crazily swallowed up the great sovereigns. Even now, Du Guanlin and Luo Bing couldn't figure out how Longao could tear apart space. Was this person really the reincarnation of a powerhouse? Du Guanlin and Luo Bing did not dare to continue clashing head-on. What face? Surviving was the best thing they could do. However, the saber light had already slashed down. Without giving the two of them any chance to react, the space directly swallowed the two of them. Even their souls could not escape. After killing 2 world kings and over a dozen great sovereigns, Longao suppressed the weakness in his body, turned around, and quickly left. In the blink of an eye, he had vanished without a trace. All the onlookers were still in shock. It was hard for them to imagine what had just happened. Space was torn apart. The might of Longao's saber instantly spread throughout Sin City. However, 88% of the people didn't believe it. What kind of joke was this? How could a little Grand Venerate break open a spatial crack? Longao didn't continue to stay in the courtyard. This was because he had killed 2 world kings and 20 great sovereigns in broad daylight. If the 5 great sovereigns were to learn of this, it was easy to imagine what the result would be. It was because of this that Longao found a secluded place and began to recuperate. Blood drinking 8 styles. The first style was Yellow Springs 9 strikes. The second style was Frozen Heart Devouring. The third style was Raging Flame Sea. The fourth style was World Extinguishing Saber Light. The fifth style was Myriad Bones Devouring Soul. The sixth style was Meteor Explosion. The seventh style was Tear Heaven and Rend the Earth. The first 6 styles weren't so powerful and it was impossible for them to be so terrifying as to instantly drain him of all his strength. Even with his current strength, he still couldn't use the 7th style, Tear Heaven and Rend the Earth. It was hard to imagine what would happen if his cultivation broke through to the World King realm. At that time, just what would happen if he used the 7th style, Tear Heaven and Rend the Earth? Longao was looking forward to it. Void World King Boundary. Within the Dragon Seal Space. Master, the last 2 styles of your blood-drinking 8 styles are very powerful and can be constantly upgraded. In the end, the most powerful aspects of the blood-drinking 8 styles are the last 2 styles. Longao nodded. He had already personally experienced the 7th style of the blood-drinking 8 styles. To be able to kill 2 world kings with a single saber strike, one could imagine just how terrifying it was. Long Fu, according to your calculations, how long can the blood-drinking 8 styles be maintained for? There is no limit. Master, you must properly cultivate the last 2 styles of the blood-drinking 8 styles. Once you reach the peak, you will be able to tear apart the heavens and earth and break apart the void. Tear apart the heavens and earth and break apart the void. Longao never imagined that the last 2 styles of the blood-drinking 8 styles would be so terrifying. Master, your top priority right now is to stabilize your injuries as soon as possible and break through to the World King realm. Once you form your own domain, I will help you form the Desolate Domain. What kind of domain is that? Master, it's not that I want to boast, but once you form the so-called Desolate Domain, you will be an invincible existence amongst all world kings. This is because the Desolate Domain stands above all other domains. F***ck. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Hearing Long Fu say this, Longao was a bit impatient. Once the Desolate Domain was combined with his own desolate tyrant body, there was no need for Long Fu to say anything else. Longao was fully confident that he would be able to dominate all world kings. Long Fu, If I need to rely on myself to break through to the World King realm, then I will need to rely on you to reach the peak of the great exalted realm. Master, this is very difficult, very difficult. As your boundary continues to rise, the strength you will need will also become greater and greater. If Master wants to reach the peak of the great exalted realm as quickly as possible, you will need to kill 3 world kings or a world sovereign martial artist and refine their souls. 3 world kings? A world sovereign? Longao sighed inwardly. If he had been able to trap the souls of 2 world kings into the dragon seal space, then he would have only been 1 world king away from breaking through to the peak of the world king realm. But this wasn't the case. Longao was well aware that although the 7th style of the blood-drinking 8 styles, tearing the heavens and splitting the earth, was incomparably powerful, he wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice, unless his cultivation could break through to the Void World King realm. Longao was even more aware that unless he broke through to the World King realm, it would be extremely difficult to enter Sin City and subdue the 5 sovereigns. With the help of the blood-drinking 8 styles, he had successfully killed 2 world kings. But could he kill a world sovereign? Without a doubt, even with the help of the blood-drinking 8 styles, it was impossible to kill a world sovereign martial artist. Thinking of this, Longao's complexion became increasingly dignified. After leaving the dragon seal space, Longao continued to recuperate. Although that saber strike had startled the heavens and made ghosts and gods weep, it had consumed far too much energy. It would be impossible for him to fully recover in 3 to 5 days. This was also the true reason why Longao wasn't willing to use the 7th style of blood drinking, tearing the heavens and splitting the earth. If the 5 sovereigns had appeared in time, would he have been able to return alive? Chapter 395. The news that Longao had killed 2 world king martial artists and 20 great sovereign martial artists spread throughout Sin City, causing an uproar that lasted for a long time. At the peak of a mountain not far from Sin City, in a pavilion, 4 men and 1 woman. They were the Eastern Emperor Luo Tian, Western Emperor Wu Ming, Southern Emperor Zhu Chen, Northern Emperor Yi Feng and Central Emperor Nangong Tu. Among them, Wu Ming was a woman. No one knew her name or identity. What do you think about Longao? I've already done my research. Longao is a disciple of the Long family from Scarlet Fire Town in Sky Region. I don't know what kind of luck he had, but he rose to power in just a few months. Moreover, he has the aura of heaven and earth. If I'm not wrong, he should be the reincarnation of a powerful expert. The other 4 nodded their heads in agreement with Zhu Chen's words. In other words, the 5 emperors agreed that Longao was the reincarnation of a powerful expert. What should we do? We still don't know what Longao wants to do. Longao's intention is very simple. He wants to find trouble with Sin City. If I'm not wrong, Longao wants to enter Sin City and dominate it. HMPH, him? Nangong Tu snorted. A mere great honorable martial artist wanted to dominate Sin City. What did he have? Brother Nangong, I believe that you should know that Longao can break open space with a single slash. Can we do that? Could he do it? Although Nangong Tu was confident in his own abilities, he knew his limits. Even an illusionary divine martial artist would not be able to break through space, much less him. Even if I can't do it, it doesn't mean that Longao is stronger than the 5 of us. Are we really going to let him enter Sin City? Sigh, we haven't been able to find the entrance for so many years. Otherwise, even if we give Sin City to Longao, what can we do? Entrance. Hearing Wu Ming's words, the other 4 emperors bitterly smiled. It turned out that there was a massive treasure trove beneath Sin City. It was said that there were peerless weapons and treasures inside. It was because of this that the 5 emperors had been dominating Sin City for so many years. No one was allowed to touch Sin City. For so many years, the 5 emperors had tried all sorts of methods but were unable to find the entrance. Over time, the 5 emperors even wanted to give up. But in the end, they persevered. Just as Wu Ming had said, if it wasn't for the treasures beneath Sin City, they would have left Sin City long ago. They wouldn't have waited until now. It was precisely because of the treasures beneath Sin City that the 5 sovereigns would never hand over Sin City. If that's the case, what should we do now? Kill. The 5 sovereigns looked at each other, each of them able to see a decision in each other's eyes. They absolutely could not give up Sin City, and the shock that Longao had given them was far too great. With just a mere great elder boundary, he had instantly killed 2 world kings and even broken through space. Once this person was allowed to grow, the consequences would be unimaginable. Sin City. After 4 days of recuperation, Longao had completely recovered. But the battle from 4 days ago was still a hot topic in Sin City. No matter what was said, Longao was someone who could contend with Sin City. Moreover, he had openly and honorably killed 20 city management officers and 2 world kings. It was easy to guess that the 5 emperors wouldn't let this matter go. Longao was looking forward to the 5 emperors. But he also hoped that he could stall for time. Thinking about it, he had indeed been a bit reckless this time. But Longao never imagined that a world king's domain would be so formidable. Just his world aura alone wasn't able to suppress the power of a domain. Longao was well aware that unless his cultivation broke through to the world king realm, it was impossible for him to be a match for the 5 emperors with his current strength. Longao was sure that since he had killed 2 world kings, the 5 emperors wouldn't let this matter go. It would take at least 3 days and at most 7 days. He believed that the 5 emperors would come looking for trouble with him. Could it be that he would have to leave Sin City for now? Longao. Hearing someone call out to him, Longao was curious. He turned around and saw a beautiful woman in front of him. Longao was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, "Sheji, I didn't think I would run into you here." Sheji was someone that Big Brother Dugu had taken a liking to. In the future, she would be his sister-in-law. It was because of this that Longao had to be polite. Sheji smiled and said, "Longao, you are truly fierce. I have already heard of your deeds. But let me give you a word of advice. The 5 emperors aren't people that you can provoke. It's best if you leave this place." His mind stirred. Why would Sheji appear here? Longao didn't know much about Sheji. He only knew that she was a female bandit who had fallen in love with Big Brother Dugu at first sight. Her strength wasn't too high, but now, Longao couldn't sense her strength at all. He could only describe her as unfathomable. It was because of this that Longao was more vigilant and careful around Sheji. Although Sheji and Big Brother Dugu had feelings for each other, they weren't really together. Moreover, Sheji was obviously hiding something from them. Just this point alone was enough for them to guard against. Longao, I can tell you clearly that the 5 emperors are already paying attention to you. If you don't leave as soon as possible, think about what will happen. No matter what, you are Dugu Bai's brother. I don't wish for anything to happen to you. Sheji, I only want to ask you one thing. What is your identity? Longao was most concerned about this. Not only did he want to know, but he also wanted to ask on behalf of his brother. He didn't want Big Brother Dugu to be deceived. Longao, I can only tell you that I am your friend. I will walk together with Dugu Bai in the future. However, now is not the time for you to know my identity. When the time comes, I will naturally tell you. Unwilling to say? The more Sheji acted like this, the more curious Longao was. He waved his hand and said, "Since you treat me as a friend, why are you hiding your identity? It seems like you don't really treat me as a friend. If that's the case, my matters have nothing to do with you. Sorry, I have something to do, so I'll leave first." Wait. Longao looked at Sheji with great interest. He didn't say anything and just waited quietly. Longao, do you really want to know? Nonsense. He was speechless, but Longao still nodded his head. Longao, I want to ask you. Why did you come to Sin City this time? Longao was speechless towards Sheji. He turned around and left. Since she didn't want to say, what was the use of him staying here besides wasting time? Chapter 396. Longao, wait. Sheji, you have to understand one thing. If it wasn't for Big Brother Dugu, I wouldn't be talking to you. Since you're not willing to tell me your identity, there's no point in me staying any longer. Sheji chuckled and said, "All right, I'll tell you." Longao was speechless towards Sheji, but for Big Brother Dugu's sake, Longao endured it in the end. Longao, do you know the identities of the 5 great sovereigns?
I don't know.
Eastern Emperor Luo Tian, Western Emperor Wu Ming, Southern Emperor Zhu Chen, Northern Emperor Yi Feng, and Central Emperor Nangong Tu.
I'm Western Emperor Wu Ming.
Just as expected. Hearing Sheji's words, Longao wasn't surprised at all, because he had already guessed Sheji's identity. If she wasn't one of the 5 great sovereigns, how could Sheji appear in Sin City? Furthermore, her strength was so mysterious that even he couldn't sense it. Therefore, there was only one possibility: Sheji was a world emperor, and one of the 5 great sovereigns.
Western Emperor Wu Ming.
So your identity is so awesome, hiding it from us for so long. Shrugging his shoulders helplessly, Longao wasn't angry at all, because everyone had their own secrets. If Sheji didn't say it, she must have her own difficulties. Longao, now that you know my identity, as a friend, I advise you to leave Sin City as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble. Without waiting for Longao to speak, Sheji continued, don't think that you can dominate Sin City just because you killed Du Guanlin and Luo Bing. Longao, I can tell you clearly that the strength of the other 4 great sovereigns is unfathomable. You alone can't dominate Sin City. Waving his hand, Longao smiled and said, I know that.
Longao.
Without waiting for Sheji to speak, Longao said, Sheji, the main reason I came to Sin City is to dominate Sin City. Hence, the 5 sovereigns and I will definitely have a battle in the future. If I win, I will become the overlord of Sin City. If I lose, I will just die. Looking at the youth in front of her with a determined expression, Sheji sighed deeply and said, Longao, come with me. Longao was not worried at all because he knew that Sheji had no intention of killing him. Otherwise, she would not have come to inform him. The 2 of them arrived at a remote restaurant. Longao, do you know why the 5 sovereigns want to dominate the city of Sin?
No idea.
Upon hearing Sheji's words, Longao's heart skipped a beat. Could there be a reason why the 5 sovereigns ruled over Sin City? If that was the case, Longao was really looking forward to it. Longao, to be honest, 20 years ago, my master brought me to Sin City and discovered a shocking secret. It turned out that there was a huge treasure under Sin City. Hence, my master used all his strength to fight for Sin City and eventually became the overlord of Sin City. After my master passed away, I replaced him as the new sovereign of Sin City. However, after so many years, the 5 of us have been searching for the entrance to the treasure, but we have not been able to find it. Hence, the other 4 sovereigns will not give up Sin City. So that was the case. Sheji, I believe that you know a thing or two about me. Since that is the case, I will not waste any more words. I will definitely obtain Sin City. No matter who it is, they will not be able to stop me. She sighed deeply. Although she did not spend much time with Longao, she knew Longao's character very well. Once he had decided on something, he would not change his mind. Sheji, with your relationship with Brother Dugu, I will not treat you as an outsider. Let's work together. I want Sin City and you want the treasure. We will each take what we need. How about that? Work together? Of course, Sheji hoped to work together with Longao. Just as Longao said, her relationship with Dugu Bai was obvious. However, she knew the strength of the 4 sovereigns very well. If she offended the 4 sovereigns, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although Sheji did not say anything, Longao knew what she was worried about. No matter what, the strength of the 4 sovereigns was obvious. Not to mention Sheji, even he might not agree. Longao, forgive me for being blunt. It is impossible for you to go against the 4 sovereigns by yourself. Even if you add my strength, you will not be a match for the 4 sovereigns. Nodding his head, Longao knew what Sheji meant. Longao knew himself well. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to go against the 4 sovereigns. However, he was determined to dominate Sin City. Even if he knew it was impossible, he had to do it. Longao's body exuded a powerful confidence and aura as he said, Sheji, thank you for coming to inform me this time. However, I will still say the same thing. I will definitely dominate the city of Sin. Farewell. Longao did not continue to stay because he did not want to make things difficult for Sheji. It was also for Brother Dugu's sake. Looking at the gradually departing figure, Sheji's eyes gradually blurred. Her face revealed a trace of helplessness as she muttered to herself, "This is Master's wish. I cannot give up. I'm sorry." After leaving the restaurant, Longao was especially careful. Even without Sheji's reminder, he already knew that the 4 sovereigns would not let this matter rest. They could find trouble with him at any time. In a secluded place. Within the dragon seal space, Longao went straight to the point and asked, "Long Fu, try to sense and see if there is a huge treasure under Sin City." Longao was not a fool. To be valued by the 5 sovereigns and be willing to guard it for more than 10 years, it was obvious what kind of treasure was under Sin City. It would be a lie if he did not want to take it. Longao knew that he was not a noble person. Long Fu said, "Master, there is indeed. However, it is not a treasure. It is a sealed Great Emperor spiritual beast. It is extremely ferocious. Once it is released, the consequences will be unimaginable." Great Emperor spiritual beast. Hearing this, Longao was shocked. He never thought that there would be a Great Emperor spiritual beast sealed under Sin City. If not for Long Fu's words, the consequences would be unimaginable once it was released. Until now, Longao was still a little scared. Fortunately, he had asked Long Fu. He knew about this, but the 5 sovereigns did not know. Sheji also did not know. Although the 5 sovereigns had not found the entrance after so many years, it was better to be safe than sorry. What if the 5 sovereigns were lucky and found the entrance to break the seal and release the Great Emperor spiritual beast? Longao did not dare to imagine what would happen if the 5 sovereigns really broke the seal. Thinking of this, Longao got up and prepared to find Sheji. No matter what, he had to stop the 5 sovereigns. Chapter 397. Longao knew that if anything happened to the Emperor spiritual beast, Sin City would be the first to suffer. Because of this, Longao knew that anything could happen to anyone but Sin City. When Longao returned to the inn, he found that Sheji was no longer there. He shrugged his shoulders helplessly. It seemed that this matter was a little troublesome. Fortunately, the 5 emperors had been searching for the entrance for so many years and still could not find it. "Longao, I want to follow you." Longao heard Wen Lan's voice not long after he left the inn. Smiling, Longao was not surprised at all. He had already guessed that Wen Lan would agree to follow him. Nodding his head, Longao said, "Follow me." Then, he walked towards his residence. In the courtyard. "Wen Lan, my intention is simple. I want to dominate the city of Sin. Tell me more about the city of Sin and see what I should do next. Know yourself and know your enemy and you will win 100 battles. Longao, it's actually very simple to control Sin City. You only need to do 2 things. What 2 things? Longao knew very well that Wen Lan had been in Sin City for many years. She knew more about the city than he did, which was why he asked this question. As everyone knows, the true overlords of Sin City are the 5 great sovereigns. Therefore, if you want to conquer Sin City, you must first defeat the 5 great sovereigns. Only then can you convince the people of Sin City that you are the strongest. If you can't even defeat the 5 great sovereigns, then I'm sorry, but I advise you to give up on this idea. Although Wen Lan's words were unpleasant, Longao knew that Wen Lan was telling the truth. If he wanted to dominate Sin City, he must first defeat the 5 emperors. As for the second thing, it's the urban army. Urban army? Just as expected. Longao, if you can defeat the 5 grand emperors, the rest of the urban army will be easy to deal with. When the time comes, I believe that 99% of them will choose to submit to you. Therefore, if you want to dominate the city of Sin, you must defeat the 5 grand emperors. Otherwise, there is nothing to talk about. Even though there were 2 points, Longao knew that the final point was still the same. Only by defeating the 5 emperors would one be able to dominate the city of Sin. Longao couldn't wait to see the power of the city of Sin. Not to mention Sin City, just the strength of the urban army was extremely small. Not to mention world kings, there were over 100 great sovereigns. Just what sort of concept was this? Longao, let me ask you a serious question. Do you have the confidence to deal with the 5 sovereigns? Longao knew that Wenlan was still worried. After all, the 5 great sovereigns were too powerful in the city of Sin. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to disobey the 5 great sovereigns. If it wasn't for the fact that she was desperate, Wenlan wouldn't have acted like this. Wenlan knew that if she relaxed even a little bit, she would fall into an eternal damnation. Wenlan, you can ask around about my matters. I've never fought a battle I wasn't confident in winning. This time, I must win the city of Sin. If the 5 great sovereigns choose to submit to me, then I will kill them all. Although Wenlan wanted to believe him, she couldn't. The 5 great sovereigns were known to all. They were all sovereigns of the Void Zone. But what about Longao? He was only a great sovereign. If he wanted to deal with the 5 great sovereigns as a great sovereign, was that even possible? Longao, I've already joined your camp. Do I have the qualifications to know what you plan to do next? Longao nodded. He certainly wouldn't doubt Wenlan. Thinking for a moment, he said, it's simple. First, I want to increase my cultivation. As long as I can break through to the World King realm, then I have the confidence to kill the 5 great sovereigns. Ah! Wenlan was startled. She was speechless to the extreme. She thought that Lin Ming would have some heaven-shaking, earth-shattering method, but now? Wenlan never imagined that Longao's method would be to increase his own strength first. Taking a step back, even if his cultivation could break through to the World King realm, would he really be able to kill the 5 great sovereigns? Longao, I've boarded a pirate ship. I don't care, but you have to help Big Sister. I don't want to die here. Longao spread his hands and smiled. Of course. You should find a place to hide first. Or, you can leave the city of Sin and go to the dragon sect of the Sky Province and wait for my good news there. How about it? Of course. Hurry up and tell me where you are. I don't want to stay here. Just as Longao finished speaking, Wenlan had already stood up and left. It turned out that Wenlan had thoroughly investigated Longao's background and thus decided to join Longao's camp. The 9 provinces had a very high evaluation of the dragon sect. Although it couldn't be compared with the 4 great influences, it was still a very safe place. Looking at the figure that had already disappeared, Longao smiled helplessly. Wenlan was a good person. Moreover, she was a great venerable expert. If he could use her, it would be quite a good thing. The next task is to increase my strength. Longao was well aware that if he wanted to deal with the 5 great sovereigns and dominate the city of Sin, he had to first increase his strength as quickly as possible. In the middle great sovereign realm, he had to first break through to the peak great sovereign realm. Only then would he be able to condense the desolate domain and break through to the World King realm. According to Long Fu, if he wanted to break through to the peak great sovereign realm, he would need the souls of 3 world kings or the soul of a world sovereign. Thinking about it, Longao finally chose the dark forest. Then, he stood up and stretched his body. Ever since he had cut down 2 world kings and 20 great sovereigns with a single saber strike, Longao had become completely famous in the city of Sin. It could be said that everyone feared him. The rules of survival in the city of Sin were very simple. That was, people ate people. If you were strong, then you could live freely. But if you weren't strong enough, then let alone your dignity, you wouldn't even be able to keep your life. This was the city of Sin, a place where people ate people. The dark forest wasn't too far from the city of Sin. A round trip of 2 hours was enough. The dark forest was known as a paradise for spirit beasts and a hell for martial artists. Thus, under normal circumstances, no one was willing to enter the dark forest. The dark forest was far too terrifying, even above the city of Sin. From this, one could imagine just how terrifying the dark forest was. Longao left the city of Sin. An hour later, he arrived at the dark forest. At this time, Longao was summoned by Long Fu. Out of curiosity, his soul entered the dragon seal space and he asked, Long Fu, what business do you have with me? Master, I just thought of something. Don't you want to dominate the city of Sin? Longao nodded. It was because of this that he became even more curious. He didn't know just what Long Fu wanted to say. Chapter 398. Master, since you want to develop your own force, why don't you create a corpse slave army as the dragon sex trump card? Corpse slave army? Longao had considered this before, but creating a corpse slave army was easier said than done. Long Fu, let's get straight to the point. I've thought about this before. Just like you said, I also want to create a corpse slave army. I have no problem killing spirit beasts, but it's all up to you. Longao was confident in his own strength. As long as he didn't encounter a World King spirit beast, he could easily kill any spirit beast below the Grandmaster realm. Longao was only worried about one thing, and that was Long Fu. No matter what, the dragon seal space still hadn't recovered to its peak. If he continued to create soul slaves and corpse slaves, would he be able to handle it? On one side was the corpse slave army, and on the other was Long Fu and the dragon seal space. If he had to choose, Longao would definitely not choose the corpse slave army. Master, don't worry about this. Creating soul slaves and corpse slaves is more than enough. Hearing this, it would be a lie to say that it wasn't tempting. Longao knew that if he could create an invincible corpse slave army, it would be of great help to the dragon sex development. As for Sin City, it was just child's play in front of the corpse slave army. Longao had always been embarrassed to suggest creating a corpse slave army, but now that Long Fu had suggested it, the meaning was completely different. Master, I can help you create a corpse slave army. Do you plan to stay in Sin City? Of course, Longao knew what Long Fu was talking about. If it was before, Longao definitely wouldn't give up on Sin City. After all, Sin City's strength was there for all to see. But now, the situation was completely different. In front of the corpse slave army, Sin City was so insignificant. On one side was the corpse slave army, and on the other was Sin City. There was no need to ask. Longao would definitely choose the corpse slave army, not Sin City. With the current situation, was he going to give up on Sin City? One had to know that he had come here specifically for the city of Sin. If he were to give up just like that, he would feel a little indignant. After thinking about it, Longao still decided not to give up on Sin City. He still wanted to dominate Sin City. The reason was simple. Longao had already thought about where his family and sect would go. No matter what, his family and sect couldn't stay in the ordinary spirit realm forever. They had to go to the spirit realm of the 9 states. The Sky Martial continent was divided into 2 domains, the normal spirit domain and the 9-continent spirit domain. The biggest difference between the 2 domains was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It was precisely because of this that Longao had decided to move his family and sect from the ordinary domain to the 9-region spirit domain in the future. Long Fu, I still don't intend to give up on Sin City. All right. Master, no matter how many spiritual beasts you kill, I will help you refine soul slaves or corpse slaves at the fastest speed. I believe that in about a year, you will have an invincible corpse slave army. At that time, it won't be a problem for you to sweep across the 9 continents. Nodding his head, Longao left the dragon seal space. Looking at the huge forest in front of him, he didn't hesitate and stepped into the dark forest. The dark forest, the pitch-black forest covered the sky and the sun. There was no sunlight at all. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as he stepped into the dark forest, Longao didn't know if his luck was too good, but he encountered 3 lightning draconic horses. They were so fast that he could only see the shadows of the wind. They were great elder spiritual beasts, and they were the lightning draconic horses that were known for their speed. Longao was very surprised because the draconic horses were a branch of the giant dragon clan. They had the blood of giant dragons in their bodies. If they were ordinary spiritual beasts, Longao wouldn't be afraid at all. However, the lightning draconic horses were completely different. They were too fast and didn't give Longao a chance to react. They attacked fiercely. In just a few seconds, Longao had been attacked continuously for hundreds of times. His body was covered in blood, as if he was a bloody man. Longao was shocked in his heart. He did not dare to hesitate because if this situation continued, He would be killed by the lightning draconic horse sooner or later. However, he was powerless. After all, the speed of the 3 lightning draconic horses was too fast. In the end, without any other choice, Longao could only release the aura of heaven and earth. He arranged the aura of heaven and earth on the surface of his body. As expected, the aura of heaven and earth blocked the attacks of the 3 lightning draconic horses. The lightning draconic horses kept roaring, but they didn't dare to get close to the aura of heaven and earth. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Longao didn't wait for his death. He directly used a soul attack. However, the 3 lightning draconic horses were too fast. The soul attack missed every time. The God-sealing pearl and the God-punishing mirror, 2 strange forces spread out and shrouded the 3 lightning draconic horses. While locking onto the lightning draconic horses, they changed the flow of time and reversed it for 3 seconds. Taking advantage of the 3 seconds of time reversal, Longao made his move. However, Longao still underestimated the speed and strength of the 3 lightning draconic horses. In just a second, they broke free from the time reversal. Then, the 3 lightning draconic horses continued to attack. This time, the attacks were even more ruthless. One move after another, each move was vicious. They obviously wanted to kill Longao. Longao was depressed to the extreme. His luck was really bad to the extreme. He had just stepped into the dark forest and he had already encountered 3 powerful lightning draconic horses. Once again, he was attacked fiercely. If it wasn't for the protection of the Holy Desolation physique, Longao would have been killed. Even so, Longao knew very well that if the situation continued, he would be killed by the 3 lightning draconic horses sooner or later. Was he going to die here? He was unwilling, but he wouldn't give up. This was Longao's character. No matter what difficulties or dangers he encountered, he would never give up. He didn't in the past, he wouldn't now, and it was even more impossible in the future. Both of his fists smashed fiercely in all directions. Punch after punch, punch after punch. Wherever the fist force passed, only wind shadows were left. He couldn't see the 3 lightning draconic horses at all. He couldn't even hit their afterimages. This speed was simply terrifying. At this time, the roar of a dragon and a tiger could be heard. Then, a giant black dragon and a giant black tiger suddenly appeared. The 2 spirit beasts directly pounced on the 3 lightning draconic horses from the left and right. The 3 lightning draconic horses never thought that a giant dragon and a black tiger would suddenly appear at this time. They didn't dare to be careless. The 5 spirit beasts instantly engaged in battle. Long Ming and Long Qiong were extremely fast. Longao couldn't compare with them at all. Because of this, it was impossible for the 3 lightning draconic horses to win by relying on their speed. Longao was overjoyed. He never thought that Long Qiong and Long Ming would be the nemesis of the 3 lightning draconic horses. Chapter 399. Longao was overjoyed. Long Qiong and Long Ming's speed could completely restrain the 3 draconic horses. 1 man, 1 dragon, and 1 tiger, 3 attacks. In terms of speed, they definitely suppressed the 3 draconic horses. Longao was not polite at all. He punched each of the 3 draconic horses on the top of their heads, and directly smashed the 3 draconic horses to death. Without wasting any time, he sent the corpses and souls of the 3 draconic horses into the dragon seal space, preparing to refine them into corpse slaves. With such speed, as long as it wasn't speed, the draconic horses could look down on all warriors of the same level. Sitting down on the ground, Longao gasped for air with big breaths. His hair was blood red, and his body was covered in blood. At this moment, Longao was extremely terrifying. Not bad, to be able to kill draconic horses. No wonder you have the guts to enter Sin City. Hearing the voice, Longao immediately stood up and looked at the 5 people in front of him cautiously. When he saw Sheji standing on the left, Longao had already guessed the identity of the other 4. The 5 sovereigns that dominated Sin City, had always been elusive. Longao, do you know your crime? Know your sister. Longao hated this kind of people the most. They would ask if you know your crime or not. Who do you think you are? In the eyes of others, the 5 sovereigns might be high and mighty existences, but in Longao's eyes, the 5 sovereigns would always be the 5 sovereigns.
Ha ha ha, Longao, I like your character. Ha ha ha.
The 4 sovereigns laughed without restraint. After all, Longao's strength was there for all to see. Yet, he was so arrogant that he didn't even put the 5 of them in his eyes. Dragon martial artist, I didn't expect you to be a dragon martial artist. Dragon and tiger accompany each other. If you were given enough time to grow, your future achievements would be great. Unfortunately, you no longer have the chance. Longao's heart skipped a beat. He had already guessed that the 5 sovereigns would pursue him, but he didn't expect them to chase him to the dark forest. Longao, you want to enter Sin City?
That's right.
If you're willing, you can submit to me.
Submit to you?
Ha ha ha, not bad, a very good suggestion. Hearing Longao's words, other than Sheji's solemn expression, the other 4 laughed maniacally again, as if they had heard the funniest thing in the world. Longao, I have to admit that your strength is very strong, especially that blade. It can be described as shocking. Unfortunately, your cultivation level is too low. Do you think you can withstand the 5 of us? Although he was confident in his own strength, Longao knew his own limits. Even if it was a one-on-one fight, he would not be able to defeat a world emperor martial artist, let alone the 5 sovereigns. The greatest difference between a world king and a world emperor was that a world king possessed the power of a domain. As for a world emperor, besides being able to support a domain, they could also break through the power of a domain. This was the true strength of a world emperor. Longao's complexion was extremely ugly. He had just fought with the 3 lightning draconic horses and had already expended his energy. If he were to continue fighting now, it would only bode ill for him. At this time, Longao suddenly realized that Sheji was winking at him. What did she mean? Longao, hand over the dragon and your blade technique and we can let you go. Break your arms and legs, cut off your tongue, and never step into Sin City again. He had to admit that the 4 sovereigns were ruthless enough to kill him. At this time, without waiting for the 4 sovereigns to take action, Longao's body suddenly moved. He took the initiative to attack, giving the 4 sovereigns a fright. However, just as the 4 sovereigns thought that Longao was courting death, Longao turned and quickly left.
Ran away.
The 4 sovereigns looked at each other. They never thought that Longao would run away. However, in their eyes, they were full of confidence and chased after him. Although Longao wouldn't retreat when encountering powerful warriors, it didn't mean that Longao didn't know the difference between life and death, especially if he was courting death. He clearly knew that he wasn't a match for the 4 sovereigns, yet he still wanted to send himself to their doorstep. What was the difference between that and a retard? As long as there's life, there's hope. It was precisely because of this that Longao immediately turned and shot away after receiving Sheji's instructions. Longao knew very well that with his speed, it was impossible for him to escape unless he relied on Long Qiong. After arriving on Long Qiong's back, Long Qiong obviously knew what had happened. He shot towards the deepest part of the dark forest at his fastest speed. Just like that, Longao and the 5 sovereigns used all their strength, one in front and one behind. The 4 of you, Longao has already disappeared. Why don't we return first and discuss how to find the entrance? Sheji was very worried about Longao. No matter what, Longao was ultimately Dugu Bai's brother. As the saying goes, even if you don't give the monk face, you have to give the Buddha face. If something happened to Longao, how was she going to answer to Dugu Bai in the future? However, Sheji knew that she couldn't be too obvious about this matter. Otherwise, if the 4 sovereigns found out, even she would be in big trouble, let alone Longao. She was very confident in her own strength, but if it was 1 against 4, Sheji knew that she was no match for the 4 sovereigns. The 4 sovereigns, Eastern Sovereign Luo Tian, Southern Sovereign Zhu Chen, Northern Sovereign Yi Feng, and Central Sovereign Nangong Tu, looked around with gloomy expressions. They were unwilling to let Longao escape when they were so close to capturing it. I can guarantee that Longao's saber technique is definitely a supreme martial technique if we can obtain it. Yi Feng didn't continue speaking, but the meaning behind his words was very clear. Longao's heaven-shaking saber strike that had cut down 2 world kings had already spread throughout the entire Nephis city. Anyone who received this news would be shocked, all of them guessing just how powerful Longao's saber strike was. It's not because of the saber technique. I really didn't think that this child was actually a dragon martial artist. Nangong too, you should know that this child is only a disciple of Scarlet Fire Town. He's not even close to the 3rd rank Long family. The 3rd rank Long family has already intervened in this matter, and it's not good for Longao. If nothing unexpected happens, the Long family will soon know about Longao. Long family. Hearing this name, everyone's heart trembled, because everyone knew what the Long family represented. On the surface, the Long family seems to have a rule that any Long family disciple below the 3rd rank will be killed immediately once they become a dragon martial artist. But you and I both know that with Longao's talent and potential, as well as his status as a dragon martial artist, will the Long family kill him? Without a doubt, it's impossible. If nothing unexpected happens, not only will the Long family not kill Longao, they might even nurture him. With a deep sigh, Ju Chen continued, if that's really the case, then we'll be in big trouble. Author's note: the first chapter was delivered in time. Last night, there was a blackout until 10 o'clock. Little Nine hurriedly wrote it when the electricity came. Chapter 400. As one of the most terrifying forces in the world, it was a piece of cake for the Long clan to deal with a person. The 4 sovereigns knew very well that if Longao's talent and potential were to be fancied by the Long family, the consequences would be unimaginable. The chances of Longao being heavily cultivated by the Long family were very high. It was better to be safe than sorry. If Longao's luck was good and he entered the Long family, then even if the 5 sovereigns joined forces, only death would await them. Thinking of this, the 4 sovereigns' faces turned ruthless. Ju Chen said coldly, no matter what happens, we have to kill Longao. Cut the weeds and pull out the roots to prevent future troubles. Cut the weeds and pull out the roots to prevent future troubles. The other 3 sovereigns nodded in agreement. The only one who didn't express her opinion was Nameless. She was worried because she couldn't object to what the 4 sovereigns had decided. Otherwise, the 4 sovereigns would definitely find something wrong. In the deepest part of the dark forest, Longao sent Long Qiong into the dragon seal space. He endured the waves of weakness that came from his body and immediately found a secluded place to recuperate. Longao didn't dare to relax his vigilance because he knew very well that if he didn't summon Long Qiong, the 5 sovereigns wouldn't continue to chase after him. But now, Long Qiong and his identity as dragon martial artists had been exposed. He believed that the 5 sovereigns would definitely not let this go. Long family's strength wasn't something that the 5 sovereigns could contend with. In order to prevent future troubles, he believed that the 4 sovereigns would definitely cut the weeds and pull out the roots. One day later, inside the dragon seal space. Master, with your current strength, whether you encounter a world king or a world emperor, you won't have the slightest ability to resist. Longao nodded. Regarding this point, Longao could be said to be extremely pained. If he were to encounter a world king, then he could use Blooddrinker's 7th move, tear the heavens and rend the earth. At worst he would be weakened for several days. But, if he were to encounter a world king, he would have no strength to resist at all. He wouldn't even have the chance to attack. Longao was well aware of his own strength. If his cultivation could break through from the Great Exalted Realm to the World King realm, then he would be able to instantly kill a World King. As for a World Sovereign, even if he couldn't contend with them, once he used Blooddrinker's 7th move, tear the heavens and rend the earth, he would be able to borrow the power of space to destroy them. In other words, his top priority now was to break through to the Void World King realm. Long Fu, do you have any ideas? Master, it seems a little unrealistic for you to break through to the peak Great Venerate realm with just World King and World Emperor spirit beasts. How about this, you go and kill 30 Great Venerate spirit beasts. Once you refine them, I'm confident that you can instantly break through to the peak Great Venerate realm, 30 Great Venerate spirit beasts. This number sounded terrifying, but to the current Longao, it wasn't anything at all. As long as he didn't encounter a freak like the lightning dragon horse, then Longao could become an invincible great venerate. Longao nodded. He left the dragon seal space and immediately began hunting. As he hunted, he also tried his best not to run into the four sovereigns. Longao was indeed strong. In just 2 short days, he had already killed 25 great venerate spirit beasts. In other words, he was only 5 more great venerate spirit beasts away from breaking through to the peak great venerate realm and then becoming a world king. The Void 8 Realms. The Void World King realm nearly reached the peak of the Void realm. This was because as long as one broke through to the World King realm, that was the same as touching upon the threshold of the World Emperor realm. According to the division of strength, World Kings were divided into 4 ranks. They were the Primary World King, Intermediate World King, High World King, and Peak World King. As for World Emperors, they were also divided into the Primary World Emperor, Intermediate World Emperor, High World Emperor, and Peak World Emperor. Unknowingly, Longao had already arrived at the deepest depths of the dark forest. The trees blotted out the skies and blocked out the sun. There was no sunlight at all. Ancient trees towered all around. Stifling. Longao felt more and more stifling, as if he couldn't breathe. He was like an ant on a hot pan, fidgety and restless. Array formation? Longao was startled. This was because he never imagined that there would be such a powerful array formation in the deepest depths of the dark forest. If it weren't for him having obtained his master's array formation inheritance, he would have long since been eroded by this array formation. Not daring to be careless, Longao immediately began to study this array formation. The more he studied, the uglier his complexion became. This array formation was far too fierce, it could even contend with heaven and earth array formations. Just who had laid down such a terrifying array formation here? Longao didn't shrink back. This was because he knew that if he left this place before his cultivation broke through to the World King realm, then once he encountered the 4 sovereigns, all that awaited him was death. With wolves in front of him and tigers behind him, Longao finally chose to continue forwards. The deeper he went, the more solemn Longao's complexion became. This was because the stifling pressure around him became increasingly fierce. Moreover, he had to be careful at all times. If he were to be attacked by the array formation at any moment, the consequences would be unimaginable. Whoosh! At this time, a white shadow flashed past. Longao was startled, thinking that it was a lightning draconic horse. But as he looked closer, he saw that this white shadow was actually a white fox with 9 tails. 9-tailed white fox. Longao was thoroughly shocked. He was well aware of what a 9-tailed white fox represented. The 9-tailed white fox was a legendary super existence. Although it wasn't too strong, it was incomparably useful. It was rumored that the blood of a 9-tailed white fox could help a martial artist rapidly increase their strength. A 9-tailed white fox, was his luck really that good? Longao was pleasantly surprised to the extreme. This was because he never imagined that he would encounter a 9-tailed white fox here. If he said that he didn't want to obtain it, then that would be a lie. However, Longao didn't act rashly. This was because he had some understanding of the 9-tailed white fox. Although the 9-tailed white fox wasn't very strong, its speed was incomparably fast. Even the lightning draconic horse couldn't compete with the 9-tailed white fox. If he could obtain the 9-tailed white fox's blood, Longao was confident that he could break through to the peak Great Honorable Realm in one fell swoop. It could even help him advance to the Void World King. If that was the case, it would be awesome. Longao stared at the 9-tailed white fox. Seeing that the other party was motionless, Longao also stood motionless. He didn't even dare to release his aura, afraid that he would disturb the 9-tailed white fox. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Whether he could break through to the Void World King realm depended on whether he could capture the 9-tailed white fox. "Kid, do you want to capture this 9-tailed white fox?" Hearing the voice, Longao was shocked. From the beginning to the end, he hadn't sensed the slightest bit of aura. He turned around and looked at the middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared. He was dressed in white and looked gentle and elegant, giving people a very comfortable feeling. However, Longao didn't dare to be careless because the white-clothed man gave him an unfathomable feeling. This kind of strength was very terrifying. Chapter 401. The man in white had a smile on his face as he gently fanned himself with the folding fan in his hand. Are you a disciple of the Long family? Hearing the man in white's words, Longao was shocked because he did not expect the man in white to expose his identity. Could it be that the man in white already knew that he was a dragon warrior? That was impossible. Ha ha ha, don't worry. I just sensed a dragon aura on you. I have a good relationship with the Long family. His heart sank. Longao could almost be sure that the man in white before him was powerful. He was at least at the Great Emperor realm. It was precisely because of this that Longao became even more vigilant. I don't know how to address you. Longao. His surname was Long. The man in white smiled. There was no need for the other party to answer. Just this surname alone was enough to explain Longao's identity. The man in white said, "My name is Yi Wushuang. I wonder which Long family disciple you are." Level 2 Long family. Long family had countless branches and a total of 9 levels. Only those who had broken through level 3 and above were qualified to become dragon warriors. Everyone knew about the Long family. Yi Wushuang? The man in white was Yi Wushuang. Hearing this name, Longao's heart was in turmoil. Could this person be the traitor that his master mentioned? Brother Yi, I wonder if you were the one who set up the spirit array here? There were definitely many people called Yi Wushuang in the world, but if it was Yi Wushuang who could set up a super formation, it would not be a fluke. Yi Wushuang was very surprised. He said, "So you know about formations too? Not bad, not bad. You're right. I did set up the formation here. As expected." Longao's heart was already filled with killing intent, but he did not act rashly. He suppressed his impulse rationally because Longao told himself that Yi Wushuang was a great emperor realm cultivator. With his current strength, if he wanted to avenge his master, it would only backfire. There was a knife hidden in a smile. Looking at Yi Wushuang before him, Longao knew very well that with Yi Wushuang's identity and ability, the reason why he could speak to him in such a pleasant manner was not because he valued Yi Wushuang. Instead, he valued the so-called Long family. The more Yi Wushuang behaved like that, the more Longao feared him. A person who hid a knife behind a smile was the most terrifying. Longao had promised his master that no matter what happened, no matter what danger he encountered, he would clean up the mess for his master. He would kill Yi Wushuang and avenge his master. Longao did not tell Yi Wushuang about him and his master. He did not even tell Yi Wushuang about the formation because he and Yi Wushuang were from the same sect. Yi Wushuang would definitely know if he revealed the formation. Brother Yi, I only know a little about array formations. I'm definitely incomparable to you. I wonder why Brother Yi is setting up this array formation. Vaguely, Longao had already guessed that the reason Yi Wushuang set up the formation was for the nine-tailed white fox. It was precisely because of this that Longao became even more curious. Although the nine-tailed white fox was extremely fast, with Yi Wushuang's strength, it was extremely easy for him to catch the nine-tailed white fox. Ha ha ha, to be honest, I came to the dark forest this time mainly to hunt the nine-tailed divine fox. However, the nine-tailed divine fox is too fast, so I can only rely on this nine-tailed white fox to lure it out. Nine-tailed divine fox. Hearing Yi Wushuang's words, Longao's heart skipped a beat. Of course, he knew what the nine-tailed divine fox represented. Legend had it that the nine-tailed divine fox was the highest existence, and its blood was extremely precious. According to the nine-tailed divine fox's blood, as long as he had 1/3 of its blood, Longao was confident that he could break through the World Emperor realm in one fell swoop and reach the so-called illusionary divine stage. The nine-tailed divine fox is at the Great Emperor realm. It's too fast, and I can't hunt it at all. That's why I set up this 9 heavens and 10 earths killing formation, hoping to hunt the nine-tailed divine fox. The divine fox emperor. Longao was not surprised at all because he had already guessed the nine-tailed divine fox's strength. Otherwise, with Yi Wushuang's strength as a great emperor, How could he not be able to hunt the nine-tailed divine fox and set up the so-called 9 heavens and 10 earths killing formation? Longao heard from Fen Tian that Yi Wushuang's skill in setting up formations was almost 80% or even 90% of his. What kind of concept was that? Longao knew that with his skill in setting up formations, it was impossible for him to set up the 9 heavens and 10 earths killing formation successfully. Longao could completely predict that as long as the 9-tailed divine fox appeared, Yi Wushuang and the 9 heavens and 10 earths killing formation should not be a problem to kill the 9-tailed divine fox. Longao, you and I are fated. How about this? Regardless of whether I can kill the 9-tailed divine fox or not, I'll give you this 9-tailed white fox. How about that? Longao sneered in his heart. He did not believe that Yi Wushuang would have such a good heart, and he did not believe that there would be such a thing as a free lunch in the world. Longao knew very well that Yi Wushuang knew that he was a level 2 Long family disciple and already had the intention to curry favor with him. Although the great emperor was extremely powerful, in front of the entire Long family, Yi Wushuang was nothing. No matter how angry and murderous Longao was, he did not show it on his face. He said gratefully, "Thank you. What do I need to do?" "Brother Long, I've always admired the Long family, especially the Dragon Valley. If my guess is correct, Brother Long should have a lot of status in the level 2 Long family. How about this? If there's a chance in the future, please recommend me. I really want to enter the Dragon Valley to take a look." As expected, Longao knew that there was no such thing as an idiot's lunch in the world, especially someone like Yi Wushuang. If he were to give the 9-tailed white fox to him for free, not to mention Yi Wushuang, even he would not dare to accept it. Anyway, it was all nonsense. No matter how good it was, no one would find trouble with him. It was precisely because of this that Longao said with a smile, "Brother Yi, there's no problem with that. To tell you the truth, my father is the head of the level 2 Long family. As long as I say the word, you can enter the Dragon Valley to take a look. However, you can't have any other thoughts. Otherwise, not only you, but even I will be in trouble." He cursed in his heart, filled with disgust and contempt. However, Yi Wushuang was overjoyed because he knew what the Dragon Valley meant. If he could really enter the Dragon Valley and obtain the giant dragon's approval, so what if he was hunted down by the Long family? Nodding, Yi Wushuang said, "All right, I'll have to trouble Brother Long with this matter." Hey! Before Yi Wushuang could finish speaking, a white figure flashed in the distance. Yi Wushuang was overjoyed and immediately retreated with Longao. He also activated the 9 heavens 10 earths killing formation. The 9 heavens 10 earths killing formation was extremely powerful. The 9-tailed divine monkey that had just appeared was about to leave with his son when it was attacked. It was shocked and hurriedly dodged. Chapter 402. How should he choose? Looking at the traitor Yi Wushuang who was right in front of him, Longao was making a decision in his heart. This was because he knew that if he did not make a move now, who knew how long he would have to wait to take revenge. Yi Wushuang was a titled Great Emperor. Even if Longao was confident in his talent and cultivation speed, Yi Wushuang's strength was there for all to see. If the attack did not succeed, then things would backfire and he would be the unlucky one in the end. Make a move. Not make a move. After thinking about it, Longao chose to give up in the end. He would rather wait for a few more years than take the risk at this time. Once he was killed by Yi Wushuang, not to mention taking revenge, what would happen to his family and lover? A little impatience spoiled great plans. In the end, he suppressed his impulse. The 9 heavens 10 earths killing formation attacked the 2 9-tailed white foxes crazily. Although the 9-tailed divine monkey was a great emperor spirit beast, it could not withstand the attack of the formation at all. In less than a few minutes, it was already riddled with holes. "Brother Long, the 9-tailed white fox is yours." With a loud laugh, Yi Wushuang's body had already dashed out. However, Longao did not pity him at all because this was the law of survival on the Qianwu continent. Whether it was a cultivator or a spirit beast, as long as one's strength was insufficient, one would have to accept their fate. Arriving in front of the 2 white foxes, Yi Wushuang did not hesitate at all. He struck the nine-tailed divine monkey's head with his palm. The nine-tailed divine monkey died with endless unwillingness and anger. Letting out a long sigh of relief, Yi Wuxiang placed the nine-tailed divine monkey somewhere. In any case, the nine-tailed divine monkey's corpse had already disappeared. However, what Yi Wuxiang did not expect was that Longao had actually taken away the nine-tailed divine monkey's soul right under his nose. If Yi Wuxiang found out about this, who knew what kind of trouble it would cause? Longao was pleasantly surprised to the extreme. The harvest this time was really not bad. Not to mention the nine-tailed white fox, just the nine-tailed divine fox's soul alone could sweep through the 9 provinces once it was refined into a soul slave. But what made Longao feel incomparably depressed was that the damage to the dragon seal space was too severe, and it was impossible to refine a great emperor-level soul slave. Otherwise, with a great emperor corpse slave overseeing the sect, they could practically ignore everyone. Even so, Longao was still pleasantly surprised. Once the great emperor's soul was refined, it would be of great help for him to break through to the world emperor level. He might even break through to the illusionary divine stage. Longao didn't hold back in the slightest. He sent the nine-tailed white fox that had already been killed into the dragon seal space. With the white fox's blood and the souls of more than 20 spirit beasts, breaking through to the peak great sovereign realm was almost an easy matter. Brother Long, are you satisfied with this result? Quite satisfied. That's good. I've already obtained the nine-tailed divine fox, so I'm going into seclusion to cultivate. You won't be able to see me for a while, or even for a few years. But don't worry, as soon as I come out of seclusion, I'll definitely come looking for you. No problem. Come find me when the time comes. Watching Yi Wuxiang gradually leave, Longao's eyes slowly turned cold. He clenched his fists tightly. For a moment, he really wanted to go up and kill Yi Wuxiang to avenge his master. Longao knew very well that with his current strength, he was not qualified to take revenge. Strength, what he needed the most now was strength. After finding a secluded place, Longao summoned the nine-tailed white fox from the dragon seal space. Without the slightest pity, it swallowed all the blood. As expected, the nine-tailed white fox's blood was very strong. As soon as it entered his throat, it spread all over his body. Not daring to be careless, Longao immediately sat cross-legged and began to cultivate quietly. With the dual infusion of the white fox's blood and soul power, Longao's cultivation base broke through from the intermediate Great Venerable to the peak Great Venerable in just 2 days. He was only one step away from officially entering the World King realm. Inside the Dragon Seal space. Long Fu, what should I do to reach the Void World King realm as quickly as possible? Longao was impatient. Long Fu certainly understood his master's mood. He thought for a moment and said, Master, if you want to break through to the Void World King realm, you must first condense the power of a domain. I plan to have you condense the Desolate Domain. Desolate Domain. Longao had already heard Long Fu talk about the Desolate Domain. It was very simple. It was to use his own desolate physique to condense a domain with his own strength. According to Long Fu, the Desolate Domain was above all other domains and was the most powerful domain. Once he condensed the Desolate Domain and broke through to the World King realm, he would be able to sweep away all World Kings. As for a World King, Longao didn't have full confidence. Master, I will help you condense the Desolate Domain now. Longao was overjoyed. He couldn't wait. 3 days later. The 5 great sovereigns looked left and right, but they still couldn't find Longao's whereabouts. It could be said that the 4 great sovereigns were thoroughly depressed. The 4 people once thought whether or not Longao had already left the Dark Forest, or had already died in the Dark Forest. If this matter were to spread out, what face would we have left? All heaven was depressed to the extreme. The 5 of them were the dignified overlords of Sin City and were also World King martial artists. Yet, they were inferior to a mere great sovereign. There was no need to guess. If this matter were to spread out, they would definitely be laughed at. It's impossible for Longao to have left the Dark Forest. I can guarantee that he is still here but has gone into hiding. No matter what happens, we have to find him. We absolutely cannot let him cause any trouble for us. The four monarchs dreaded the Long family behind Longao. After all, there was always a possibility. If the Long family valued Longao and focused on cultivating him, then the five of them would be in deep trouble. The dark forest is too big. If Longao deliberately hides, it'll be too difficult for us to find him. Don't worry, my little guy smelled Longao's scent before and has been resting for the past few days. I have already talked to the little guy just now. He can confirm that Longao is still in the dark forest and has not left. Everyone knew what Nangong 2's little guy meant. The three of them were overjoyed. Only Sheji's expression was solemn because she knew that Longao was in deep trouble this time. Nangong 2 took out a fist-sized toad from his bosom and stroked it. He smiled and said, "Little guy, bring us to Longao now. If we find him, I will definitely feed you well. How about it?" "Gwa, gwa." Nangong 2's face lit up. He said, the little guy agreed. "Follow me. I believe that we will find Longao soon. There's no need to look. I'm right here. I want to see what you can do to me." Chapter 403. Seeing the sudden appearance of Longao, the four sovereigns looked as if they had seen a ghost. Sheji was enraged to the extreme. She simply didn't know why Longao would walk right into their trap. Did he really want to die? In the end, Sheji didn't reveal her identity. This was because Longao had brought this upon himself and she was powerless to do anything about it. Even if she saw Dugu Bai in the future, she would tell him the truth. "Longao, I have to admit that you are very courageous. But that doesn't mean you won't die." "Die?" With a cold snort, Longao glanced at the four people in front of him and indifferently said, "It's not certain who will emerge victorious, but I can clearly tell you that there are only two paths in front of you. The first is death and the second is submission." Waha, wahahaha. Hearing Longao's words, the four sovereigns crazily laughed. Even Sheji was helpless. Longao was far too arrogant. Things should have been reversed, but now? A great sovereign martial artist threatening five sovereigns? This was unheard of. Nangong 2 took the little fellow into his arms and walked out with a gloomy expression. He stretched out his right hand and crooked his finger, saying, "One move. If you can survive, I will kill myself here." One couldn't help but admit that Nangong 2 was indeed arrogant. But Nangong 2 had the qualifications to be arrogant. Not only was he one of the five sovereigns of Sin City, but he was also a world sovereign martial artist, a lofty existence. One move. Longao didn't speak any nonsense, because no matter how much he spoke, nonsense would always be nonsense. Longao and Nangong 2 stood face to face, staring at each other. At this time, a powerful aura erupted from their bodies, fiercely colliding with each other. Domain aura. Feeling the domain aura emitted from Longao's body, everyone was shocked. It was also because of this that everyone had already guessed why Longao dared to walk into the trap. Although they didn't fear Longao, they were still amazed by Longao's cultivation speed and talent. In just 3 or 4 days, Longao had broken through to the World King realm from a great sovereign. This speed was far too tyrannical. "So you've already broken into the World King realm. No wonder you're so arrogant." Without giving Longao a chance to speak, Nangong 2 suddenly laughed out loud and boldly said, "Longao, I will now let you know just how great the gap is between a World King and a World Emperor." With that, Longao and Nangong 2 released their respective territories. Normally, without any special reason, a World King would condense a domain. The higher one's boundary was, the greater the power of their domain. In a normal situation, Longao had just become an early World King, so it was impossible for him to resist the power of a World King's domain. Moreover, once his cultivation broke through to the World King realm, he could directly break through a domain. This was also why martial artists said that a World King was nothing but trash in the eyes of a World Emperor. The reason why Nangong 2 was so confident was because the gap between a World King and a World Emperor was impossible to make up for. "Break for me." It wasn't just Nangong 2, but everyone else, including Sheji, believed that Nangong 2 could defeat Longao in a single move. Just breaking through Longao's domain would be enough to defeat him. It was because of this that no one could understand why Longao would come here to die, even though he knew he was no match for Nangong Tu. Just as everyone thought that Nangong Tu would break through Longao's domain, the situation reversed. Nangong Tu simply couldn't break through the power of the domain. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. What kind of joke was this? A world emperor couldn't break through a world king's domain. Everyone was dumbfounded. Longao was actually overjoyed. As Long Fu said, the desolate domain he condensed was extremely powerful. Let alone a world king, even a world emperor might not be able to break through his desolate domain. In the moment that Nangong Tu was lost in thought, Longao used a soul attack. In a normal situation, Longao wouldn't dare to use a soul attack. After all, he was only at the world king realm. Once he suffered a backlash, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ah! A pitiful cry sounded out. Luckily, Nangong Tu dodged quickly, otherwise that attack would have taken his life. Hearing Nangong Tu's pitiful cries, everyone was stunned. They didn't know what had happened to him. Longao didn't take advantage of the situation to pursue. Instead, he calmly stood where he was, coldly looking at the pained Nangong Tu. You weren't defeated in a single move. Rather, I defeated you in a single move. Please. At this moment, Nangong Tu's complexion was gloomy to the extreme. This was because he never imagined that he would be defeated in a single move. Was this true? Suppressing the pain and weakness in his mind, Nangong Tu coldly said, "We just agreed on a fair battle, but you." Longao waved his hand, disinclined to listen. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone as shameless as Nangong Tu. Even if Nangong Tu had been defeated and admitted defeat, Longao might not have looked down on him. But if he had clearly lost and didn't want to die, then he had to find a reason to do so. Moreover, it was an unfounded reason. This was simply too shameless. Nangong Tu, if you don't want to die, then say so. There is no need to find so many excuses. If you want to fight, then let's continue. If you don't want to die, then submit. Choose one. Longao's tone was overbearing and arrogant. But the 5 sovereigns were well aware that the current Longao was no longer the same as he was in the past. He had the qualifications to be arrogant. It was hard to imagine that in just a few days, Longao's strength had doubled. He was even able to defeat Nangong Tu in a single move. Just what sort of concept was this? Longao, if we fought fair and square, would you be my match? Idiot. As Longao coldly looked at the 5 people in front of him, he suddenly said, "I normally don't fight with women. The 4 of you can come at me together." The 4 of you together? What did Longao mean by this? Hearing Longao's words, the 4 sovereigns didn't seem to have reacted. When they did, their faces were filled with anger. Longao wanted to fight the 4 of them alone? This was simply looking down on them. How could they not be angry? Longao, do you really think you are invincible in the world? You and I both know very well how strong you are. There is no need to put on airs here. Although Longao had just defeated Nangong Tu in a single move, the 4 sovereigns still didn't put him in their eyes. In their eyes, a realm king would always be a realm king. There was a huge gap between them and a realm king. You don't dare to accept the challenge? Alright, since you are courting death, don't blame me for being ruthless. The 4 sovereigns didn't continue to talk nonsense. In any case, there was no one here. So what if they joined forces? At worst, they would just be laughed at by Nameless. Things had already reached this point. The 4 great sovereigns already knew that they had to kill Longao. Otherwise, according to this child's talent and potential, they believed that it wouldn't be long before Longao's strength would surpass them. When that time came, it would really be troublesome. Chapter 404. Although she was surprised by Longao's strength, Sheji was not optimistic about a normal battle. With the 4 sovereigns working together, who could defeat them unless it was an illusionary divine martial artist? Not to mention that Longao was only a world king. Sheji did not believe it, regardless of whether others believed it or not. However, Sheji knew that there was nothing she could do. If Longao could not defeat the 4 sovereigns alone, what was the use of her joining in? Apart from exposing her identity, it would be useless. At this moment, the 5 of them were already engaged in a fierce battle. The 4 sovereigns had just attacked and released the power of their respective territories. Since they could not break the other party's territory, they had to form an absolute suppression on top of the territory. The 4 sovereigns could not understand why they could not break the other party's territory with their strength. However, under such circumstances, the 4 of them did not think too much about it. They only knew one thing, and that was to kill Longao. They thought that they would be able to suppress Longao after the overlapping of their territories. However, the 4 sovereigns did not expect that the power of Longao's territory was too strong. Not only were they unable to suppress him, they felt like they were being suppressed instead. Their hearts trembled as they did not know what was happening. Fighting 1 against 10, Longao vaguely had the upper hand. However, Longao knew very well that with his strength, it was impossible for him to defeat the 4 sovereigns. It was because of this that Longao directly used the God-sealing pearl and the God-punishing mirror. Their bodies were locked and time began to flow backward. Sensing that their bodies had been forcefully locked onto, the 4 rulers were shocked. They did not know what had happened. However, the 4 sovereigns were world kings after all. With their combined strength, they broke through the lock and time flow. At this moment, Longao held the blood-sucking wild saber and slashed down fiercely. Blood-sucking, S7th move, tearing heaven and earth. Longao was not a fool. Of course, he knew that with his strength, he was no match for the 4 sovereigns. Since that was the case, he might as well stake it all and use blood-sucking, S7th move. Wouldn't it be better if he could defeat the 4 of them in one move? The shocking saber strike was accompanied by rolling thunder as it slashed down from the sky. The surrounding space began to tremble slightly because of the terrifying saber light. The space was torn apart by the saber light, and terrifying spatial cracks appeared. The 4 emperors were completely stupefied. After all, hearing about it was one thing, but actually encountering it was another. If they had known earlier that Longao's saber technique was so terrifying, the 4 sovereigns would not have dared to be so careless. After all, in a battle between martial artists of this level, the slightest carelessness could lead to eternal damnation. The 4 sovereigns could sense the terrifying might of this saber. They did not dare to face it head-on, so they all turned around and prepared to leave. But would Longao give the 4 sovereigns a chance to leave? Soul attack. Longao endured the weakness of his soul and split it into 4. This was something that he couldn't do normally. At this moment, when the 4 great emperors were frightened, Longao's soul successfully attacked them. Ah! Ah! The 4 great emperors screamed at the same time. As a result, the speed of the 4 great emperors slowed down. In a battle between experts, a few seconds were enough to determine the outcome, not to mention a shocking saber strike. The 4 great emperors' faces were filled with horror and even despair because their souls were severely injured. At this moment, they could not escape at all. In fact, the 4 great emperors knew very well that the reason they lost to Longao in this battle was entirely due to their carelessness. If they had gone all out from the beginning, would the outcome be the same? However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Just when the 4 great sovereigns thought that the 4 of them were definitely going to die, Longao's figure suddenly appeared. He did not give the 4 of them any chance to react at all. He directly pushed the 4 of them out with 1 palm each. The saber light disappeared, and the sky cleared up after the storm. Looking at the merged space, the 4 great emperors did not react until this moment. Longao, why did you save us? Looking at the youth in front of them, the 4 great emperors were curious. Since this youth had the chance to kill them, why would he save them? The 4 great emperors were well aware that the reason Longao entered Sin City this time was because he wanted to monopolize Sin City. As long as he could kill the 4 of them, then from this day forth, there would no longer be any 5 great emperors in Sin City. There would only be one person, and that was Longao. The 4 great emperors were a bit depressed. Even now, the 4 great emperors found it hard to accept this. Several days ago, Longao had been a great senior that could be easily trampled upon. As long as they wanted to, they could instantly kill Longao. But in just 3 or 4 days, Longao's cultivation had broken through to the World King realm. Moreover, the power of his domain was incomparably formidable. Even they were unable to break through his domain. 4 great world emperors joining forces had actually been defeated by a world king that had just broken through. If this matter were to spread out, would anyone believe it? Let alone others, even the 4 great emperors found it hard to accept this reality. Victory and defeat have been decided. I won't speak any more nonsense. I want to monopolize Sin City. Now, there shouldn't be any problems with that, right? Problems? The 4 great emperors bitterly smiled. As the saying went, the winner was king while the loser was a bandit. No matter how much they didn't want to admit it, the truth was placed in front of them. A loss was a loss. Longao, from now on, the 4 of us will not take a single step into Sin City. From now on, you will be the overlord of Sin City. No. The 4 great emperors prepared to leave. But as they heard Longao's words, their expressions froze. Nangong too coldly said, Longao, you've already defeated us and we've already given up on Sin City. What else do you want? Don't go too far in everything. At worst, we'll just die together. Looking at the incomparably angry sovereigns, Longao felt helpless. He gloomily said, I've already said that you only have 2 paths. Either you die or submit. Before the 4 emperors could speak, Longao continued, I hope that all of you will follow me. I can guarantee that all of you will achieve much more in the future. Furthermore, I can help all of you break through to the illusionary divine stage. They completely ignored what Longao had said previously and only focused on the realm of the illusionary divine stage. Nangong too asked, Can you really help us break through to the illusionary divine stage? The 4 of them knew how difficult it was for the World Emperor to break through to the illusionary divine stage. Who knew how long it would take for the World Emperor to break through to the illusionary divine stage? However, the 4 of them were suspicious. After all, the World Emperor was only a world king. If he could break through to the illusionary divine stage, why couldn't he do it himself? Of course, Longao knew what the 4 emperors were thinking. He smiled and said, Half a year ago, I was only a Hutian 3rd heavenly layer warrior. Chapter 405. Half a year. 3rd heaven of the Hutian stage? The 5 great sovereigns were not fools. Of course, they knew what Longao meant. Hutian realm, Xiantian realm, metamorphosis realm, nihility realm. Under normal circumstances, one would need at least 20 years to break through from the Hutian realm to the World King realm. Some would even need 30, 40, 50, or even 60 years. However, Longao only used half a year to complete what others would take decades to complete. If they had not heard it with their own ears, they would not have believed it. The 5 emperors had a good understanding of Longao. They knew about Longao's past, but they did not believe it. Longao, how long will it take for us to break through to the illusionary divine stage? This was what the 4 emperors were most concerned about. To be honest, it did not matter if they submitted to Longao. As long as they could break through to the illusionary divine stage, so what if they followed Longao in the future? 3 months. Ah! Hearing Longao's words, the 4 emperors were dumbfounded. They thought that Longao was joking. After all, they knew how difficult it was for the world emperors to break through to the illusionary divine stage. Looking at the time, the East Emperor had already worked hard for 10 years and was still unable to break through. Within 3 months, I will help all of you to break through to the illusionary divine stage. Master, we will follow you in the future. Life and death will not change. The matter had already reached this point. The 4 great sovereigns steeled their hearts and directly chose to submit to Longao. Longao was elated. He looked at Sheji. Before Longao could ask, Sheji said, Dugu Bai is following you. Now, even the 4 great kings are following you. Do I have a choice? What did Wu Ming mean? Since the 4 emperors had already chosen to submit to him, Longao did not hide anything and told them about what had happened. After hearing this, the four sovereigns were enlightened. At this moment, Ju Chen suddenly asked, "Master, forgive me for being blunt. For so many years, the five of us have been guarding this place mainly for the treasures of Sin City. Therefore, we hope to find this entrance as soon as possible." How could Longao not know about the anxiety of the five sovereigns? After all, the five great sovereigns had guarded Sin City for so many years for this treasure. How could the five great sovereigns give it up? However, Longao would never agree to the five sovereigns' request. Others might not know, but how could Longao not know? What lay beneath the city of Sin wasn't any treasure, but the so-called evil spiritual beast. Moreover, it was at the great emperor level. "Come with me." Suppressing the waves of weakness that came from his body, Longao naturally would not show it in front of the five sovereigns. Longao knew very well that with his current strength, it was impossible for him to kill the four world sovereigns alone. This time, he was able to defeat the four sovereigns in one fell swoop, mostly due to luck and the carelessness of the four sovereigns. Until now, the four sovereigns still could not understand why they had lost in such a depressing manner. Longao was even more clear that although the four sovereigns had chosen to submit to him, they were still somewhat unconvinced in their hearts. It was because of this that Longao had to act tough. Otherwise, how could he suppress the four sovereigns? The six of them found a quiet place and sat down. "The five of you, I'll be honest with you. I've already checked the treasure you're talking about. I can tell you clearly that there's no treasure under the Sin Mountain. There's a great sovereign spiritual beast sealed inside. Master, don't joke around." "That's right. What kind of joke is this?" Back then, the seniors had investigated very clearly. The so-called treasure is indeed under Sin City. Waving his hand, Longao said helplessly, "You don't have to doubt me. After all, we're a family now. There's no need for me to lie to you." The five sovereigns smiled bitterly. No matter what, they had guarded Sin City for so many years. Now that they were suddenly told that there was no more treasure in Sin City and that there was only a sealed evil spiritual beast, how could the five of them be willing to accept this? "Master, it's not that we don't believe you. It's just that we really can't accept this. We've guarded this place for more than 10 years and in the end, we've lost everything. This, I know. But I still have to tell you that the spiritual beast under Sin City must never be released. Otherwise, not only Sin City, but also other places will be affected. The consequences will be unimaginable." Great Emperor level. The five sovereigns were well aware of what an emperor-level spiritual beast represented. "I really didn't expect that there would be a great emperor-level spiritual beast sealed under Sin City." The five sovereigns sighed. In the end, everything was just a dream. This matter ends here. No matter what happens, the great emperor-level spiritual beast sealed under Sin City must never be released. "Oh yes, I'd like to ask, what's the classification of the 8 illusionary divine realms?" Longao only knew that above the illusionary divine realms were the 8 illusionary divine realms. Above the 8 illusionary divine realms were the 10 great emperors, and above that were the titled great emperors. The 10 great emperors were red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, blue, purple, black, white and gold. As for the 8 illusionary divine realms, Longao did not know. It was precisely because of this that the 5 sovereigns were shocked. Swallowing their saliva, Nangong too asked in disbelief, "Master, do you really not know or are you pretending not to know?" "Of course it's true." Looking deeply at the young man in front of them, the 5 sovereigns knew that their master was not lying. They shrugged their shoulders helplessly. Thinking about their master's identity, the 5 of them understood. No matter what, their master was just a small disciple from Kaihua town in the normal spiritual domain. It was normal for him to not know about the classification of the illusionary divine realms. The 5 sovereigns were very clear that it was still a big question whether there were any illusionary divine realm martial artists in the normal spiritual domain. "Master, the 8 illusionary divine realms are divided into the half-sage realm, earth sage realm, sky sage realm, sage king realm, sage emperor realm, sage venerable realm, sage emperor realm, sage emperor realm and sage emperor realm." Nodding his head, Longao finally knew how the 8 illusionary divine realms were divided. Following which, the 5 sovereigns began to explain the strength of the 8 illusionary divine realms. Longao listened quietly and only managed to finish after an hour. Master, what do you intend to do next? The 5 sovereigns already knew about the feud between Longao and the 4 great organizations. It was precisely because of this that the 5 sovereigns asked this question. Longao didn't want to hide anything from the 5 sovereigns. He said, I came to Sin City this time around to build my own force so that I can fight against the 4 great forces. Moreover, I have decided to move my sect into Sin City later. Chapter 406. Master, you just said that there is an evil Emperor Spirit Beast sealed under Sin City. Once the Dragon Sect enters Sin City and the Emperor Spirit Beast breaks out of the seal, won't there be a lot of trouble? How could Longao not know about Ju Chen's worries? Longao had thought about this for a long time and said, the headquarters of the Dragon Sect will not be located in Nephers City, but in the Dark Forest. As for Nephers City, it will be the city of the Dragon Sect. Damn, that's vicious. Hearing the master's decision, everyone cursed in their hearts. Compared to the Dark Forest and Sin City was like a child's play. The two were not on the same level. Master, are you not afraid of the spirit beast in the Dark Forest? Shaking his head, Longao smiled mysteriously and said, I have an idea. Longao did not say anything and the 5 sovereigns did not ask. Just like that, Longao led the 5 sovereigns out of the Dark Forest and towards Sin City. According to Longao's previous plan, he wanted to create an army of corpse slaves. But now, it seemed that he had to deal with Sin City first before continuing to create an army of corpse slaves. With Long Fu's help, Longao knew that it would not be a problem for him to create an army of corpse slaves. Sin City. At this moment, Sin City was in an uproar. The 5 sovereigns who had not appeared for many years suddenly gathered in Sin City. What kind of concept was this? No one knew what had happened. After all, the 5 sovereigns gathered in Sin City. This was something that had not happened for many years. Not only that, but the 5 sovereigns also announced a piece of news at the same time. When this news came out, it shook the entire Sin City. No one knew what had happened and why the 5 sovereigns would do this. So that was the case. It turned out that the 5 Grand Kings had gathered in Nephers City to announce the same thing. From now on, there would no longer be 5 Grand Kings in Nephers City, only one Grand King Longao. Not only that, but the 5 great sovereigns also announced that from now on, the 5 great sovereigns would follow Sovereign Longao and jointly manage the so-called Sin City. Longao. There was no one in Sin City who didn't know of this person. After all, he was the Longao who had killed 2 world kings and 20 great sovereigns with a single saber strike. Even so, there were still countless people who wondered just how Longao had been able to subdue 5 great sovereigns. The 5 emperors announced to the city of Sin. From then on, Longao officially entered the city of Sin and replaced the 5 emperors, becoming the new ruler of Sin City. Longao had just entered the city of Sin, and he immediately carried out reforms. The first step was to reform the urban army. Longao knew very well in his heart that if the urban army of Sin City continued to exist like this, Sin City would be finished sooner or later. Moreover, after Sin City was settled, he was prepared to move Dragon Sect and his family to the 9-state spirit domain. Longao had already made up his mind. Dragon Sect and his family would enter the Dark Forest. As for Sin City, it would become the outer sect of his sect. Many people in the urban army were dissatisfied with Longao's reforms. One by one, they stood out to resist, but they were ruthlessly suppressed by the 5 great sovereigns. Those who continued to resist were killed without mercy. Sin City was a place where people ate each other. It was a place where people bullied the weak and feared the strong. If you didn't act tough, you would be the one to suffer in the end. It was because of this that Longao chose to forcefully suppress them. 9 states spirit domain. Ever since Longao had assassinated the core disciples of the 4 great powers, the 4 great powers hadn't made any response. Each of them had their own ulterior motives and didn't want to give the other an opportunity to take advantage of them. However, the four great powers were very clear that if this continued, there would only be one result. That was, the four great powers would be swallowed up by Longao sooner or later. After 10 days, the four great powers couldn't bear it any longer. In the end, the four great powers came together to discuss and decided to deal with Dragon Sect together. In order to deal with Dragon Sect and not give Dragon Sect any chance to make a comeback, the four great powers sent out 4 great world emperors and 40 world kings. It could be said that they had put in their capital. The 4 great powers were Eastern Imperial City, Western Third Grade Long Family, Southern Nether Mansion, and Northern Ethereal Palace. Each great power sent out a world emperor and 10 world kings to form an army of destruction. They majestically left the 9-state spirit domain and headed towards the ordinary spirit domain, Sky Province. 4 world emperors and 40 world kings. This kind of strength was enough to look down on the 9-states continent. Not to mention the ordinary spirit domain, even Sin City couldn't resist this army of destruction. The news of the 4 great forces forming a great army of destruction instantly spread throughout the entire 9 regions. Everyone who received the news turned pale with fright. Although many people had great confidence in Longao and the Dragon Sect, 4 world emperors and 40 world kings. Such a great army of destruction was simply too terrifying. Could Longao and the Dragon Sect withstand it? In the ordinary spirit domain, all the great powers were looking forward to it. Even more people hoped that Longao could continue his counterattack and resist this army of destruction. Long Family, Great Hall. Longao had already received the news. His face was extremely gloomy and worried. This time, the 4 great powers sent out an army of destruction. There were 4 world emperors and 40 world kings. What did this mean? Brother Long, don't worry. Aoa had already told me before he left that as long as the 4 great powers attack together, the heaven and earth formation will be opened. Moreover, there is senior fire Chileen in the Forbidden Land. I don't believe that the 4 great powers will be afraid this time and they will come again. Waving his hand, Longao naturally understood the meaning of Wang Yidao's words. Brother Wang, you don't know. Senior fire Chileen has clearly said that unless the family is in danger, he won't take action. If the 4 great powers don't attack and just wait for him, we will be in big trouble. As for the heaven and earth formation, if Aoa doesn't personally take charge, I'm afraid it will be difficult to resist this army of destruction. After a deep sigh, Mu Wanfeng said solemnly, as long as Aoa is fine, we can always rise again. Now that Aoa is in Sin City, no matter what, we can't let Aoa know about this. Hearing Mu Wanfeng's words, both Wang Yidao and Longao agreed. They replied in unison, that's right. No matter what, we can't tell Aoa about this. It's okay for anyone in the family to die, but Aoa can't be harmed. Wang Yidao and Longao knew very well that Aoa was the hope and expectation of the family. As long as Aoa was alive, the family would not be destroyed. Sin City. Longao, who was reforming Sin City, suddenly heard a piece of news. He jumped up and his face instantly turned cold. His body was full of murderous intent. Chapter 407. Sin City. When Longao received the news of the 4 great forces forming an army of destruction, he wasn't as anxious as expected. Instead, he was abnormally calm. Master, what do you plan to do? Sheji was very worried. Besides the Dragon Sect, she was also worried about Dugubai's safety. It had to be known that the 4 great forces had sent out 4 world emperors and 40 world kings. This strength was enough to destroy an ordinary spirit domain. Even if all the masters of the 9 states were to join forces, they still wouldn't be able to resist. Since the 4 great forces want to find trouble, then I'll play with them. Longao sneered. He looked at the 5 sovereigns in front of him and said, Are you willing to come with me? Yes. Good, we'll get up immediately. This time, Longao was staking everything. Not only did he take away the 5 sovereigns, but he also took away the entire urban army. Longao roughly calculated. Besides the 5 sovereigns, there were more than 100 urban army members in the urban army. In other words, Sin City had more than 100 great honorable martial artists. Not only that, under the 5 sovereigns, there were more than 50 world kings and more than 200 great honorable martial artists. He wouldn't know if he didn't look, but he was shocked when he saw it. Counting, the number of martial artists that could be mobilized this time was 5 world emperors, more than 50 world kings, and more than 300 great honorable martial artists. F***CK. When Longao found out about this number, he couldn't help but curse. He had just entered Sin City and didn't know anything about it. Moreover, the 5 sovereigns had been developing for so many years. Their strength wasn't just for show. Master, is this force okay? Very good. I want to see how the 4 great forces will destroy my dragon sect. The 4 great forces had sent out 4 world emperors and 40 world kings. They seemed incomparably powerful, but compared to Sin City's strength, they paled in comparison. Longao knew that although Sin City's strength wasn't bad, it was still lacking when compared to the 4 great forces. No matter what, the 4 great forces were the absolute overlords of the 9 states. After existing for so many years, their strength and foundation should be very strong. If he wanted to contend against the 4 great forces, his current strength wasn't enough. An army of corpse slaves. Longao knew that if he wanted to contend with the 4 great powers, there was only one fastest method, and that was to create a corpse slave army. Normal spirit realm, dragon sect. Dugu Bai, Long Potian, Xia Jun, and the others all stood at the peak of the mountain and looked into the distance seriously. In another 2 hours, the 4 factions' army would arrive. 4 world emperors and 40 world kings. What should we do now? Xia Jun was worried to the extreme. He thought that after his master left, the heaven and earth array formation he left behind would be able to resist any difficulties. But now, it seemed that even the heaven and earth array formation wouldn't be able to withstand the attacks of 4 world kings and 40 world kings. Dugu Bai waved his hand and said, "We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Remember, no matter what happens, we have to stop it." When Master left, he handed the dragon sect to us. "We can't let anything happen to the dragon sect." "You're right. We must protect the dragon sect." Hearing Long Potian and Dugu Bai's words, Xia Jun smiled helplessly and said, "Can we stop it?" Just as Xia Jun finished speaking, the entire mountain peak began to tremble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The sound was earth-shattering. The 4 great powers had begun their attack. Feeling the trembling mountain peak, everyone's expression changed. Dugu Bai sneered and said, "Activate the heaven and earth array formation. This time, I want no one to return." Below the mountain peak, the 44 martial artists swarmed into the dragon sect. Initially, the 4 great organizations did not dare to enter the dragon sect as they had learned their lesson from the previous incident. However, the situation now was completely different. With the 4 world emperors joining forces, unless an illusionary divine martial artist personally appeared, who would be able to defeat them? The moment the 44 martial artists stepped in, they were enveloped by the heaven and earth array formation. If Longao was here, with the power of the heaven and earth array formation, he would be able to withstand it. But now, the problem was that Longao wasn't here. Although Dugu Bai and Long Potian knew how to activate the heaven and earth array formation, their strength was too low. Also, the 2 of them didn't know anything about arrays. With the combination of the 2, the power of the heaven and earth array formation was reduced by half. The 44 martial artists crazily attacked the heaven and earth array formation. Because the 4 world emperors had already expected this, they obviously came prepared. The 4 great powers attacked the dragon sect. Countless people were looking forward to seeing if Longao could continue his counterattack. But no one knew that Longao wasn't even in the dragon sect. One had to admit that the combined power of the 4 world emperors was indeed terrifying. In just 1 hour, the heaven and earth array formation couldn't withstand it. The heaven and earth array formation was based on the power of heaven and earth. So even if it was attacked, it would automatically disappear and not be destroyed. Because of this, the heaven and earth array formation disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, everyone was delighted. The world emperors were indeed world emperors. In this attack on the dragon sect, the four great powers didn't lose a single soldier and directly broke the heaven and earth array formation. Ha ha ha, dragon sect, kill without mercy. Leave no one alive. The 40 world kings swarmed forwards. But at this time, a terrifying aura came shrouding over them. As they felt this aura, everyone was shocked. They retreated from the dragon sect in panic and fear. They looked at the dragon sect in front of them, not knowing what was happening. Which senior is in charge of the dragon sect? Please come out and meet us. The four world emperors stared at the dragon sect in front of them. They could only feel the terrifying aura, but no one came out. Now, everyone was puzzled. They didn't dare to act rashly. After all, the aura that shrouded them was too strong. Without a doubt, it must be an illusionary divine martial artist. There was an illusionary divine martial artist in the dragon sect. No one would have thought of this. If there was really an illusionary divine martial artist in the dragon sect, they wouldn't dare to come even if they were beaten to death. The difference between an illusionary divine martial artist and an illusionary divine martial artist was huge. Senior, please come out and meet us. Senior, please come out and meet us. Senior. No matter how the four world emperors shouted, the dragon sect was like hell. No one answered and only a cold wind blew past. What's going on? Everyone was puzzled. Under normal circumstances, once there was an illusionary divine martial artist in the dragon sect, he would definitely not let them act presumptuously. Could it be that the dragon sect was just bluffing? Thinking of this, the four world emperors waved their hands. Immediately after, the 10 world kings shot towards the dragon sect. In the blink of an eye, they had already disappeared without a trace. The meaning of the 4 world emperors was very simple. They wanted to send the 10 world kings into the dragon sect to investigate what was going on. Chapter 408. The 10 world kings had completely lost contact with the dragon sect. The 4 world emperors did not dare to enter and could only wait outside quietly. Time passed quickly. Unknowingly, an entire hour had passed. What is the dragon sect up to? I don't know, but if I'm not wrong, the dragon sect must have an illusionary divine martial artist. What should we do now? Illusionary divine martial artist. Thinking that the dragon sect might have an illusionary divine martial artist, everyone cried. The 10 world kings were the best example. They had entered for such a long time and still had not come out. Thinking about it, they knew the fate of the 10 world kings. Waving his hand, the strongest of the 4 world emperors, the grade 3 Long Lin from the Long family, said coldly, "We have to think about this at length. Let's leave first. Since you're here, why leave so quickly?" Hearing this, everyone's expression changed. Following which, figures shot over from afar. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived. Over 350 people stood in the air. Even a fool would know what was going on. This was because a martial artist could only stand in the air after breaking through to the great honored realm. Cough cough. Feeling the oppressive aura of the martial artists in the air, everyone from the 4 great forces was dumbfounded. They did not know what was going on. At this moment, a young man suddenly walked out from the crowd. He had fiery red hair, 2 fiery red eyebrows, and was dressed in black. He was the master of the dragon sect, Longao, a legendary figure. Void World King? How did Longao's cultivation break through to the Void World King? Everyone knew that Longao was only a heavenly honored realm cultivator. It had only been a few months since he had fought with the #1 martial artist of the Long family. In other words, Longao had broken through to the Void World King from the heavenly honored realm in a few months. They did not want to believe it, but Long Lin and the other 3 world emperors knew that Longao's talent and potential were enough to look down on everyone. This cultivation speed was simply too terrifying. Longao. Waving his hand, Longao asked, "Who are you?" 3rd rank Long family elder, Long Lin. Rank 3 Long family, we originally had no enmity with each other, but your Long family has been causing trouble for me. If I let you go, I believe that from today onwards, You will treat me as a pushover. Without giving Long Lin any chance to speak, Longao turned to look at the 5 sovereigns and said, I'll give you 10 minutes to kill all of them. Leave no one alive. Yes, master. After stopping Sheji, Longao smiled and said, go find Brother Dugu. Leave this to me. Nodding her head, Sheji also seemed to miss Dugu by. She turned around and quickly left. In a short while, she had already disappeared without a trace. The 300+ great sovereigns didn't attack. After all, in this situation, if a great sovereign were to attack, they would only be slaughtered. The 4 great influences had already lost 10 world kings, leaving them with 30 world kings. But Longao had 50 world kings on his side. As for the world emperors, 4 against 4, it could be considered a draw. This time, Longao didn't watch the battle. He personally took action. Although it was a bit strenuous to fight a world king, with Longao's strength, killing a world king was something that could be done in a matter of minutes. Longao was like a bolt of lightning, constantly wandering among the numerous world kings. Every time a world king screamed, it meant that a world king had fallen. Around Dragon Sect, everyone was watching the great battle of the 9 heavens. They were all scared silly because the battle between the 2 sides was too earth-shattering. Such a battle scene was rarely seen in 100 years. Everyone sighed inwardly. Unknowingly, in less than a year, Longao, a trash from Scarlet Fire Town, had not only risen to power but also counterattacked the 4 great influences. Longao had carved out a path of blood in the midst of the continuous slaughter. He had established the Dragon Sect, which could even resist the 4 major forces. He had counterattacked time and time again. He could be considered to be on par with the 4 major forces. This was Longao, a genius who liked to create miracles. Now, Longao had become a godlike existence in the eyes of ordinary people. Especially the history of Longao's rise and counterattack, it was something that every loser dreamed of. Slaughter. Longao led many experts and began to slaughter the martial artists of the 4 great influences. He didn't care about the 4 great influences at all. In the 9 provinces continent, perhaps only Longao would dare to do such a crazy thing. Perhaps even Sin City wouldn't dare to do such a thing. At the peak of Dragon Sect. Looking at the battle in the distance, everyone cheered. At the beginning, all the disciples of Dragon Sect were in despair. After all, the martial artists sent by the 4 great influences were too powerful. With Dragon Sect's strength, it was impossible to resist. But now, the timely appearance of the master saved the sect, and the martial artists of the 4 great influences weren't that terrifying. Looking at the martial artists of the 4 great influences falling from the 9 heavens, everyone felt extremely happy. The master Longao had become the idol of every disciple of Dragon Sect. High in the 9 heavens, 80 world kings and 8 world emperors constantly fought back and forth. One couldn't help but admit that Longao's strength was truly formidable. But at this time, Longao suddenly roared out. Everyone of Dragon Sect, retreat! Retreat! What did the master mean by this? Everyone was completely bewildered. They didn't know what the master meant, but in the end, everyone withdrew, entering Dragon Sect one by one and vanishing without a trace. After everyone withdrew, the remaining people of the 4 great influences were left in a daze. They didn't know what Longao wanted to do, especially Dragon Forest and the other 3. No matter what was said, their opponent was only a world king. Did he really want to resist all of them by himself? Blood drinking 8 styles. The first style was Yellow Spring's 9 strikes. The second style was Frozen Heart Devouring. The third style was Raging Flame Sea. The fourth style was World Extinguishing Saber Light. The fifth style was Myriad Bones Devouring Soul. The sixth style was Meteor Explosion. The seventh style was Tear Heaven and Earth. The eighth style was Saber Break the Firmament. According to normal strength, if Longao wanted to use the eighth style Saber Break the Firmament, he would need to reach the World Emperor realm. With the strength of a World King, if he forcefully used Saber Break the Firmament, then not only would his strength be instantly sucked dry, but there was even a chance he would suffer a backlash. In truth, in a battle of normal strength, Longao had full confidence he could slaughter everyone from the 4 great influences without leaving a single one alive. But Longao didn't want to do this. He wanted the 4 great influences to remember this saber strike. Even if he had to exhaust his strength for a short period of time or even risk a backlash, he would still forcefully use saber break the firmament. In the 9 heavens, Longao's blood-red hair wildly danced in the wind. His black clothes fluttered and he grasped blood-sucking saber. He stood in the air, coldly looking at the dozens of people in front of him. Suddenly, a heaven-shaking aura erupted from Longao's body. Blood-sucking saber also began to move. Chapter 409. Saber piercing the heavens. Longao used all his strength to use the 8th move of Bloodthirst, saber piercing the heavens. With Longao's current strength, it was impossible for him to use saber piercing the heavens. If he used it forcefully, there would only be one result. Apart from his strength being instantly drained, he would even suffer a backlash from the saber energy. However, Longao didn't care about anything. In his opinion, this saber strike must be shocking and completely suppress the 4 great forces. Longao's body rushed directly into the clouds. Logically speaking, Longao's saber should be slashing at everyone, but Longao did the opposite. The bloodthirst saber in his hand slashed fiercely towards the heavens. Longao merged the aura of heaven and earth into it, forming a dazzling and terrifying saber light that instantly cut through the clouds and rushed into the 9 heavens. Rumble, rumble. The entire sky began to resound. Before anyone could figure out what was going on, a thunder tribulation saber light suddenly slashed down from the sky, directly hitting the bloodthirst saber. At this moment, all the strength in Longao's body was drained. Resisting the waves of weakness that came from his body, Longao's body was on the verge of collapse. But even so, Longao still endured it in the end. Looking coldly at the crowd below, just when everyone didn't know what Longao wanted to do, the bloodthirst saber in Longao's hand had already slashed down fiercely. The shocking saber light was like a thunder tribulation, ruthlessly descending from the sky. Oh my god! F***ck hurry up and leave, leave. Everyone was completely stunned because Longao's saber was too overbearing. Just the aura alone was enough to intimidate the heavens. Long Lin was completely frightened. After waking up, he immediately called for everyone to leave. Although everyone's speed was fast, the saber light was even faster. In the blink of an eye, it arrived and ruthlessly slashed at everyone. They didn't have the slightest ability to resist, including the 4 great world emperors. Before dying, Long Lin and the others couldn't figure out why Longao's strength was so terrifying. He was clearly a world king, but he could slash out such a shocking saber strike. Everyone was swallowed up by the saber light, not a single one was left. Not only that, but the shocking saber light cut through the space, and traces of spatial cracks crazily devoured everything in the surroundings. Not to mention resisting the saber light head-on, one could clearly feel how terrifying this saber light was just by sensing it a little. Crack! The shocking blade aura cleaved down, and a huge crater appeared outside the dragon sect. It was as if it had been cut in half. What kind of concept was that? The entire crater spanned from left to right and was a full 100 meters long. Everyone stared blankly at the power of this slash. They were all completely dumbfounded. Some of them even swallowed their saliva. Above the 9 heavens, Longao, who had just struck out with his saber, did not dare to be careless. He immediately turned around and returned to the dragon sect. Although the slash was extremely powerful, it drained all of Longao's energy. As soon as he returned to the dragon sect, before anyone could ask, Longao said, "Don't let anyone disturb me." His face pale and his body on the verge of collapse, Longao endured the pain and took a step forward, disappearing without a trace. What had happened? Of course, everyone could see that there was something wrong with the master at this moment. Everyone looked at each other and saw the deep worry in each other's eyes. However, no one dared to disturb the master. The master had clearly said that no matter who it was, no one was to disturb him. Who would have the guts to do so? The master's slash just now was truly shocking. Dugubai nodded and said, The Master's strength has already reached such a level, and this time, the Master has brought back so many powerful martial artists. From now on, our dragon sect will be able to contend with the 4 great powers. Everyone nodded in agreement. The Master's strength was clear for all to see. Even the 4 world emperors did not have the slightest ability to resist. No one would look at the process, only the result. Therefore, everyone could only see one result, and that was Longao. The Master of the dragon sect was too powerful. With his strength alone, he had killed 4 world emperors and more than 20 world kings. Not only that, the Master had brought back 5 world emperors, 50 world kings, and more than 300 great sovereigns. With this strength, the dragon sect would have the strength to contend with the 4 great powers in the future. Everyone, do your job well. Remember, do not be careless. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Under such circumstances, the Grandmaster had no idea what was going on. The destruction army of the 4 major forces had been massacred. If there were no accidents, the 4 major forces would definitely not let the matter rest once they knew about it. If the Grandmaster were to let his guard down at this time, who knew what would happen? No one dared to be the slightest bit careless. They divided up their work and handled their own matters. The news of the destruction army of the 4 major forces being killed by Longao, who had rushed back in time, instantly spread throughout the entire Jojo continent. Anyone who received the news was incomparably shocked. A single saber strike had instantly killed 4 world emperors and more than 20 world kings. Was this something that a world king martial artist could accomplish? Of everyone, 80% chose not to believe this. But Longao's frequent counterattacks caused more and more people to slowly believe this fact. Not only that, but many people came here because of his reputation, wanting to see the ruins of the saber light in front of the dragon sect. A single saber strike had instantly killed 4 world emperors and more than 20 world kings. One could imagine just how terrifying Longao's saber strike was. It was because of this that everyone rushed in. However, they did not dare to approach the dragon sect. They all stood far away, looking at the heaven-shaking saber light. The dragon sect was no longer the same as before. Who would dare to provoke them? Moreover, everyone knew that the dragon sect and the 4 great powers were like fire and water. If one did not die, one would perish. If one was mistaken for someone from the 4 great powers, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Strangely enough, this was even more shocking. Some martial artists looked at the saber light ruins and were even able to gain enlightenment and make breakthroughs in their cultivation. It was because of this that even more people rushed in, wanting to see the saber light ruins. In the end, they wanted to make a breakthrough in their cultivation. It wasn't just others, but even the disciples of the dragon sect were crazily trying to comprehend Longao's saber strike. This was because the power of this saber strike was far too strong. There were even some people who stood around the saber light ruins for several days or even half a month. They didn't eat or drink, they simply wanted to comprehend it. Counterproductive. After 3 days of recuperation, Longao's condition finally improved. But the backlash from saber shattering the firmament was far too strong. He could only slowly recover. And at this time, Longao learned of the saber light ruins and immediately ordered the ruins to be completely sealed off. Only a small number of people could enter each day. This wasn't because Longao didn't want to, but because doing so would only harm many martial artists. Chapter 410. Many people were unhappy with the actions of the dragon sect. However, no one dared to voice their dissatisfaction. No matter what, the Blade Radiance ruins belonged to the dragon sect. If the dragon sect was willing to let them see it, they would let them see it. If they were not willing to let them see it, they would not even have the chance to resist. The dragon sect had already risen and even the 4 great organizations could not stop them. In the main hall of the dragon sect. Master, we have slaughtered the entire destruction army. If there are no accidents, the 4 great organizations will not let this matter rest. If the 4 great organizations attack us now, how are we going to defend ourselves? Longao nodded his head. He knew what Dugubai meant. Although they had successfully slaughtered the Destruction Army, the four great organizations were not destroyed. They might even take revenge on him and the Dragon Sect. The four great organizations had been in the spirit domain of the 9 regions for so many years. Longao could imagine how powerful the four great organizations were. Their foundations were definitely beyond his imagination. Without a doubt, Longao could almost be sure that there were illusionary divine stage martial artists in the four great organizations. Illusionary divine stage martial artists were a problem for Longao. If the four great organizations really sent out illusionary divine stage martial artists, would the Dragon Sect and himself be able to defend against them? Longao waved his hand. As the master of the Dragon Sect, he had to appear calm. If the master could not remain calm, how could the normal disciples be calm? We only need to observe the situation closely. The four great organizations have suffered heavy losses this time. I believe that they will not attack again in the short term. Would they really not attack? Everyone looked serious. After all, the master was too ruthless this time. He had almost slaughtered the entire Destruction Army and left no one alive. What did that mean? Longao gave a few simple instructions and gave Long Potian a look. Then, the two of them turned and left. In the pavilion at the back of the mountain. Brother Potian, I am sorry. Master, what happened to you? Looking at Long Potian in front of him, Longao deeply sighed. Because of Long Jing's matter, he really didn't know what to say. No matter what, as long as the evil spirit didn't leave Long Jing's body, Long Jing would be in great danger. Since he had to face it anyway, Longao did not continue to hide it. He told her everything about Long Jing. After hearing this, Long Potian was very calm. He wasn't as furious as expected. He shrugged helplessly and said, Master, you don't have to blame yourself. No one wants to see this happen. Longao seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Master, I have a favor to ask of you. I hope you can agree to it. Longao was shocked by how serious his big brother Potian was. He hurriedly said, Big brother Potian, if there's anything you need, just say it. As long as it's within my power, I'll definitely do it. Longao truly regarded Longao as a friend, a brother, so he would do anything for his brother. Because of this, as long as it wasn't a mountain of blades or a sea of fire, Longao would agree to almost anything. Brother Long Potian did not continue to call him master. Instead, he called him Brother Long. Because of this, Longao felt that this matter was becoming more and more serious. Long Potian had never acted like this before, even when his family was in trouble. Brother Long, do you know that my little sister likes you? Likes me? Long Jing likes me? Longao was startled by Long Potian's words. This was because he had never thought about this from the beginning to the end. He said helplessly, Big brother Potian, you're not joking with me, right? Long Jing has always been chasing me. If it weren't for the fact that I ran fast enough, I'd be a corpse by now. Longao did not believe that Long Jing liked him at all. What kind of joke was this? Back in Crimson Dragon City, he had almost been killed by Long Jing after accidentally looking at her body. Afterward, Long Jing had been constantly chasing him. If that was the case, Long Jing would still like him unless there was something wrong with her head. Brother Long, you don't understand a woman's thoughts. I can say for sure that little Jing likes you. There's no mistake about that. Before Longao could speak, Long Potian waved his hand and said helplessly, Brother Long, I know that you don't like little Jing, but I hope that you won't hurt her, okay? Longao nodded. Since things had already come to this, what else could he do? Big brother Potian, don't worry. No matter what happens in the future, I won't hurt little Jing. Thanks. The demon's whereabouts are unknown. With my current strength, I can't force the demon's soul to leave little Jing. Big brother Potian, this matter will have to wait. I understand. Longao felt very guilty about Long Jing's matter. No matter what, if it wasn't for him, the demon's soul would not have taken over Long Jing's body. The two of them did not continue speaking. They both sat quietly. Spirit region of the 9 states, rank 3 Long family's main hall. At this moment, Long Maoan and Long Yang's faces were extremely gloomy. This was because the four major forces had never expected that the army of destruction they had sent out would be completely massacred. Not a single person had escaped. Master, this matter shouldn't be false. Longao's cultivation has already broken through to the Void World King realm. Moreover, he used a very powerful Armageddon martial skill. Many people saw Longao's blade slaying everyone. Moreover, someone had comprehended and broken through at the sight of the blade light. Nodding, Long Maoan thought for a while and finally said, Longao's strength has exceeded my expectations. It seems that Longao is really the reincarnation of a powerful expert. Master, Longao's development is too fast. According to the rumors, Longao has already subdued Sin City. At this speed, I believe that we won't be able to control Longao in 3 years. When that time comes, we'll be in big trouble. How could Long Maoan not know about Long Yang's worries? Could it be that he really had to ask the ancestors for help? Unless it was absolutely necessary, Long Maoan was not willing to use the family's foundation. This was because one could never be too careful. If the ancestors were injured, the sect's foundation would be damaged and the consequences would be unimaginable. Master, why don't the four major forces join forces and each invite an illusionary divine warrior to help? No matter what, we have to kill Longao first. Otherwise, there will be too many variables. I'll have to discuss this with the other 3 families. Oh yes, what does the Long family think about this? At the mention of the Long family, Long Yang became even more helpless. I don't know what's going on. If it was in the past, the family would have already responded. However, after such a long time, the family still hasn't said anything. I'm afraid, although Long Yang did not finish his sentence, the meaning of his words was very clear. Under normal circumstances, the Long family would definitely ask about this matter. However, what about now? The Long family did not do anything. Chapter 4:11. There's no need to wait anymore. If I'm not mistaken, Longao's talent and potential have already moved the Long family. Although Long Maoan did not want to admit it, he knew that the Long family valued Longao. Family head, if that's the case, if we continue to deal with Longao, what should we do when the Long family blames us? The Long family had many branches and was divided into 9 classes. A Class 3 Long family was nothing in the eyes of the Long family. There's no need for that. The Long family's intention is simple. They want to test Longao. If Longao can survive, I can guarantee that he will join the Long family. However, if he can't, the Long family will not care about him. So that's why. Long Yang was not a fool. Of course, he knew what the patriarch meant. After all, the Long family just wanted to see Longao's performance. All these years, the Long family has been drifting away from us. If this continues, our family will have no hope of entering the Dragon Valley next time. Hence, Longao must die and this matter cannot be dragged on. With a deep sigh, Long Maoan continued, if we can kill Longao, we can more or less regain some of our dignity. But if we can't, Longao will rise completely. As for our family, we will never be able to rise again. Long Yang was shocked. He did not expect the family head to say this. Longao was the family's Achilles heel. It was either you die or I die. Soon after, Long Maoan went to look for the other 3 superpowers. They were prepared to work together and invite an illusionary divine warrior each to deal with Dragon Sect. However, the Serene Dark Mansion and Ethereal Palace did not agree to continue. After all, the Serene Dark Mansion and Ethereal Palace felt that it was not worth it. After all, the 2 superpowers did not have any grudges with Longao. They were dealing with Dragon Sect because of the Long family and Imperial City. Now that they had suffered heavy losses, the Serene Dark Mansion and Ethereal Palace were unwilling to continue. No matter how the Imperial City and the Long family tried to persuade them, the Nether Mansion and the Ethereal Palace refused to take action. In the end, the Imperial City and the Long family had no choice but to join forces to deal with the Dragon Sect. Although the Imperial City and the Long family had joined hands, neither of the 2 families were willing to invite the old ancestor to take action. That was because the Longao was too unpredictable. Time and time again, the four powers always thought that they would be able to deal with the Longao. But every time, the result was that they would be slaughtered by the Longao. Because of this, regardless of whether it was the Imperial City or the Class 3 Long family, they were all selfish and did not want to act rashly. If the illusionary divine martial artists were killed, the two families would be in deep trouble. Dragon Sect. On a mountain peak not far from the Dragon Sect, Long Ao and Long Chen stared at each other from afar. Long Chen's intention for coming here was very simple. He wanted to have a fair fight with Long Ao without suppressing his cultivation. Long Chen was still brooding over what happened last time. Although he had forcefully suppressed his cultivation, Long Chen knew that if he didn't use the power of his domain, it would be impossible for him to be Lin Ming's match. Not long ago, Long Chen had received news that Long Ao's cultivation had officially broken through to the World King realm. While he was shocked, Long Chen also wanted to defeat Long Ao fair and square to regain his face. Neither of them had informed the other of this battle. In this battle, as long as Long Ao won, he would be able to replace Long Chen and become the 100th rank on the Dragon Decree. This would be like a carp leaping over the Dragon Gate, reaching the heavens in a single bound. But if Long Ao lost, only death awaited him. It was because of this that the two of them placed great importance on this battle. Long Ao, I have to admit that your talent and potential is the strongest among all the people that I have ever seen. Long Chen wanted to laugh and cry. No matter how it was said, it had only been several months since their last battle. Even so, Long Ao had broken through to the World King realm from an Empyrean. If Long Chen said he wasn't jealous of such a cultivation speed, that would be a lie. Although Long Chen didn't want to admit it, the facts were placed in front of him. Long Ao's talent and potential far surpassed his own. The truth was that in Long Chen's heart, he wanted to kill Long Ao. After all, within the 9 provinces spirit realm, he was the number one person. But now, the number one person was Long Ao. Moreover, if he lost, even if he didn't die, he would still have to give up his Dragon Decree ranking. He couldn't lose all his halos. Losing them was the same as dying. Long Chen, no matter who wins or loses in our battle, news of it will not spread out. If I win by some stroke of luck, then you will still be on the Dragon Decree. What I want is not just the 100th rank. Hearing Long Ao's words, Long Chen's complexion froze. If Long Ao had said these words several months ago, he would have ridiculed him, despised him, and looked down on him. But now, without knowing why, Long Chen had a feeling that this youth wasn't boasting at all. It was because of this that Long Chen didn't ridicule him at all. Instead, he nodded to show his respect. In this battle, the grudges between the two sects weren't included. This was a battle between martial artists. Long Ao and Long Chen didn't continue speaking. They glared at each other, their auras slowly rising. It was unknown whether or not they had a tacit understanding, but neither of them summoned their dragon companions. Long Chen was depressed. Last time, he had been ruthlessly beaten up by Long Ao's dragon companions. From then on, no matter how Long Chen summoned his dragon companions, as long as he declared war, they wouldn't appear. Long Ao certainly knew what Long Chen meant. He didn't want to defeat Long Chen in terms of dragon companions. Rather, he wanted Long Chen to be defeated fair and square. At this time, the two of them moved. In the blink of an eye, the two of them ruthlessly collided, separated, and then collided once more. After 3 collisions, Long Chen was nearly struck to death. Long Chen was shocked. He never imagined that Long Ao's mortal body would be so formidable. He didn't dare to be careless. This time, Long Chen chose to release his domain. However, Long Ao was no longer the Empyrean of the past. Now that his cultivation had risen to the World King realm, he could also release the power of his own domain. In a battle between world kings, what mattered was whose domain was stronger. Thus, when their domains collided just now, Long Chen had used all of his strength to stimulate the power of his domain, instantly doubling it. But, what left Long Chen feeling incredulous was that no matter how much he stimulated his domain, he still wasn't able to control his opponent's domain. Just what was going on here? Longao, I would like to experience that saber strike of yours from the past. Longao didn't respond. This was because Long Chen was only a world king. Let alone saber rend the heavens, rend the earth, Long Chen wouldn't be able to resist it. However, Long Chen clearly didn't give up. He stimulated his domain and said, Longao, if you are a martial artist, then use your strongest strike. I want to see whether or not your strongest saber strike is as fierce as the legends say. Chapter 412. Now that things had come to this, Longao knew that he had to defeat his opponent in order to convince him of his loss. Because of this, the bloodsucker blade appeared in his hand. He looked at Long Chen coldly and said, the power of Skybreak is too great. Once I use it, you will die without a doubt. Why don't you try tearing heaven and earth first? Before Long Chen could speak, Longao's body exploded with a powerful aura. Then, Longao integrated the aura of heaven and earth into the blade light and slashed down. The shocking blade light brought with it a terrifying blade energy. Hiss, 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 Long Chen's face was shocked to the extreme. He had only heard about it before and didn't feel much. Now that he experienced it personally, he truly felt the terrifying power of the blade light. Not daring to be careless, Long Chen also used his strongest attack. But now, the shocking blade light instantly split the space apart. The space crack crazily swallowed everything around. Longao's cold voice floated over. Admit defeat or die. One had to admit that Longao was really arrogant. But Longao had the capital to be arrogant. After all, the last 2 styles of the 8 styles of Bloodsucker were extremely powerful. Not to mention a world king, even a world emperor could be easily killed. Admit defeat. Die. Whether it was admitting defeat or dying, Long Chen did not want to accept it. But when he felt the terrifying power of the blade light, Long Chen was completely stunned. But as a dragon martial artist, and a dragon martial artist on the dragon ranking, he had the dignity of a martial artist. Even if he died in battle, he couldn't admit defeat. It was precisely because of this that Long Chen resolutely used his strongest attack. Stubborn. Longao had no other choice. The blade radiance swallowed Long Chen instantly. However, at this moment, Longao's body moved quickly. He arrived within the blade radiance at lightning speed and forcefully pulled Long Chen out. According to Longao's current strength, using the 7th style of Bloodsucker tearing heaven and earth was more than enough. Although a part of the energy in his body would be drained, it wouldn't be like before. Looking at the young man in front of him, Long Chen's face was filled with disappointment and unwillingness. Letting out a deep sigh, Long Chen suddenly said, Longao, I've lost. From now on, you're officially ranked 100th on the dragon ranking and have entered the dragon ranking. With your talent and potential, you'll definitely be able to enter the top 90 of the dragon ranking within 3 years. 3 years. Hearing Long Chen's words, Longao was very surprised because he never thought that with his cultivation speed, he would need 3 more years to enter the 100th place on the dragon rankings. What did that mean? There was no doubt that the dragon rank was the most valuable rank in the Long family. Longao, you still don't understand the dragon rank, right? Longao nodded. He had a good impression of Long Chen. Although the dragon sect and the rank 3 Long family were enemies, if possible, he really wanted to become friends with this person. The 2 of them sat at the peak of the mountain and looked at the endless void in the distance. The dragon ranking, the ranking that all the young disciples of the Long family dream of. Anyone who can enter the dragon ranking is a genius. Moreover, as long as they can enter the dragon ranking, Longao didn't say anything and just listened quietly. Longao also had some understanding of the Long family's dragon ranking. Anyone who could enter the dragon ranking was a genius. There were also rumors that as long as a rank 3 Long family disciple or below could enter the dragon ranking, they would be valued and nurtured by the Long family and soar into the sky. Longao, how is my strength? He didn't know why Long Chen would ask such a question, but Longao still answered honestly, you're very strong. You're number 1 in the ordinary domain. No need to comfort me. If you didn't appear, I might still be number one. But now, you're number one. Number one? Longao knew very well that regardless of whether it was him or Long Chen, they might be extremely strong in the Jojo continent. However, in the eyes of the entire Long family, they were nothing. Even with Long Chen's strength, he was only able to enter the 100th place on the dragon ranking. This already showed how valuable the dragon ranking was. Longao, I can tell you clearly that with my strength, I don't have the qualifications to enter the dragon ranking. Don't have the qualifications? Longao was confused by Long Chen's words. He didn't know what Long Chen meant. Since he didn't have the qualifications, why was he able to enter the 100th place on the dragon ranking? Long Chen smiled helplessly and said, "The Long family's strength is far greater than what you know. Those who can enter the dragon ranking are at least illusionary divine martial artists. Moreover, if they want to rank higher, they have to break through to the Emperor realm." Damn. Longao couldn't help but curse in his heart. This was because Longao had never thought that only illusionary divine martial artists had the qualifications to enter the dragon ranking. Previously, when he and Long Potian were talking about the dragon ranking, Long Potian said that as long as one could break through to the illusionary divine realm, one would have the ability to enter the dragon ranking. Now, it seemed that even illusionary divine martial artists might not be able to enter the top 20 of the dragon ranking, let alone the illusionary divine martial artists. What did this mean? Longao felt that the Long family's strength was unfathomable. It would be even more difficult to enter the dragon ranking. Long Chen, since only illusionary divine martial artists have the qualifications to enter the dragon ranking, how did you manage to enter the dragon ranking? Luck. Luck. That's right. I relied on luck. When the 100th place on the dragon ranking was severely injured, I met him by chance. At that time, he already knew that he was about to die. Therefore, he pestered me and forced me to enter the dragon ranking. Otherwise, with my strength, I wouldn't have been able to enter the dragon ranking. So that was the case. Although Longao was confident in his own strength, he knew his own limits. With his current strength, he could easily deal with a world king. As long as he used the 8th style of blood drinker, he would be able to fight a world king. However, Longao did not have full confidence in fighting an illusionary divine martial artist. In other words, regardless of whether it was him or Long Chen, they did not have the qualifications to enter the dragon ranking. Longao smiled helplessly. Perhaps in the eyes of the world, both of them were very powerful. However, both of them knew that their strength was far from enough. There was still a huge gap between them. Longao, regardless of the grudges between my family and the dragon sect, I would like to be friends with you. What do you think? No problem. We can be considered friends from an exchange of blows. Longao, since we are friends, I would like to give you some advice. If you can, you should let go now. Otherwise, if you really anger the imperial city and your family, the consequences will be unimaginable. The foundation and strength of the 4 overlords of the 9 states region are not to be underestimated. You are far from enough. Longao knew about Long Chen's worries. However, could he really choose to give up? Chapter 413. Longao knew that now that things had developed to this point, there was no way out for him. After several battles, the grudges between him, the imperial city, and the 3rd-rank Long family had reached the point where they were like fire and water. It was either you die or I die. Especially recently, he had killed 4 world emperors and 40 world kings. What kind of logic was this? It would be strange if the 4 great powers were willing to let him go. Longao was already prepared to counter soldiers with arms, water with earth weir. Seeing that Longao did not speak, Long Chen already knew what Longao was thinking. He shrugged helplessly and said, "Since you've made up your mind, I won't force you. I only hope that you can promise me one thing for the sake of your friend." Longao nodded. There was no need for Long Chen to say anything. Longao had already guessed it. "I promise you that no matter what happens in the future, I will not destroy the Long family." "Thank you." Long Chen smiled. Although this sounded a little funny, He did not know why, but he had a feeling that the young man in front of him would definitely be able to flatten his family in the future. Although he did not want to see it, that day would eventually come. Longao, the family has already told the Long family about you. Long family? Hearing that Long Maoan had already told the Long family that he was a dragon warrior, Longao became a little dignified. No matter what, the Long family's strength and foundation was not something that the third-rank Long family could compare to. If the Long family wanted to deal with him, how could he resist? Longao did not dare to imagine. But what he could not understand was why the Long family did not want to deal with him after knowing about this. Long family had a rule that no Long family disciple below the third rank could become a dragon warrior. Once discovered, they would be killed without mercy. Long Chen seemed to be able to guess Longao's thoughts and smiled helplessly. Longao, you should be fine for a short period of time. Why is that? Longao became even more curious, but he chose to believe Long Chen. After all, Long Chen was the number one person in a third-rank family. There were many things that others might not know, but Long Chen knew. Long family members would have already made a decision if they were to live or die. After thinking for a while, Long Chen continued, but Longao, you're too unpredictable. In less than a year, you've grown to this level. If nothing unexpected happens, I believe the Long family has already begun to pay attention to you. They just want to see your potential. What do you mean? Longao became even more curious. Could it be that the Long family did not intend to deal with him? Long family is not like the rumors outside, where no matter who it is, as long as they become a dragon warrior, they will be killed without mercy. Is that not the case? Shaking his head, Long Chen said, of course not, unless you enter the Dragon Valley. Otherwise, the Dragon Valley is not the only place in the world with giant dragons. Once you become a dragon warrior, the Long family will observe you. Those with good talent and potential will directly enter the Long family and be heavily nurtured. If not, the Long family will take back the giant dragon and leave the disciple to fend for himself. So that was the case. It seemed that the rumors were not all true. Longao was not a fool and understood what Long Chen meant. It was very simple. The Long family already knew that he was a dragon warrior. The reason why they were not willing to come out was because they wanted to observe him and see if he was worth nurturing. If his talent and potential really caught the eye of the Long family, then his luck would come. Not only would he be heavily nurtured by the Long family, but he would also be able to soar to the sky. In the future, would the four great powers still dare to deal with him? Once the Long family determined that his talent and potential were not good enough, then he would be considered unlucky. Not only would he have to take back his dragon companion, he would not even know if he was alive or dead. At the end of the day, everything still depended on talent and strength. Longao was even more aware of a problem. No matter how strong he was, in front of the Long family, he would always be a chess piece. If they wanted to throw him away, if they wanted to use him, they could use him. Looking at Longao beside him, Long Chen smiled and said, "Are you not satisfied?" Longao did not hide anything and said, "That's right, I am not satisfied. The Long family is too overbearing. Not to mention other things, just the Dragon Valley alone, why can only rank 3 and above disciples of the Long family enter and not rank 4 and below? Rank 3 Long family?" With a bitter smile, Long Chen said, "Longao, let me tell you the truth. Even rank 3 disciples of the Long family are not qualified to enter the Dragon Valley. Why is that?" Hearing Long Chen's words, Longao was very surprised. After all, it was rumored that the Long family had a rule. As long as one was a rank 3 or above disciple of the Long family, they would be qualified to enter the Dragon Valley and find their companion to become a dragon warrior. If that was the case, why couldn't rank 3 disciples of the Long family enter the Dragon Valley? If that was the case, how could Long Chen become a dragon warrior? With another bitter smile, Long Chen said helplessly, "Longao, you may not know, but the Long family will publicly select disciples to enter the Dragon Valley every year. The rank 1 and rank 2 Long family have a quota, and the remaining quota will be decided through martial arts. Does the Long family not have a rank 3 disciple? No." In all these years, The family has sent a few people to enter the Dragon Valley, but in the end, no more than 5 people were able to become dragon warriors. As for me, I was lucky and barely made it into the dragon ranking, so the Long family made an exception and gave the rank 3 Long family a quota as a reward. Hearing this, Longao almost fainted. He had always thought that rank 3 disciples of the Long family were qualified to enter the Dragon Valley and become dragon warriors. Now, it seemed that only the rank 1 and rank 2 Long family could control the Dragon Valley, but the real power to decide was in the hands of the rank 1 Long family. Longao was looking forward to Long Chong's growth. After all, Long Chong had the Dragon Clan's treasure, the Divine Dragon Pearl. If he could fuse with the Divine Dragon Pearl, there was no doubt that Long Chong would become the new dragon god of the dragon sect. As long as Long Chong could become the dragon god, Longao had already decided to take the Dragon Valley from the Long family. In the future, his family would be the new Long family. Longao, originally, I was ranked rank 100 on the dragon ranking and had the opportunity to go to the Long family for a baptism, but now, you have this opportunity. Baptism? Longao had no idea what Long Chen was talking about, so he asked, "What is a baptism?" Longao, you may not know, but the Long family has the Dragon Clan's ancestral hall. Any outstanding disciple can enter the Dragon Clan's ancestral hall for a baptism. According to legend, after the baptism, if you are lucky, not only will your strength increase greatly, you can even obtain a natural ability. Chapter 4:14. Innate Divine Ability. Regarding the innate divine ability that Long Chen spoke of, Longao did not know what it was at all. Long Chen, what is an innate divine ability? Longao, you might not know, but do you know the relationship between our Long family and the Dragon Valley? Longao shook his head. He knew that the Long family and the Dragon Valley were allies. In the entire Martial Heaven continent, only the disciples of the Long family could enter the Dragon Valley and become dragon martial artists. The old ancestor of the Dragon Clan was a peerless genius. He appeared out of nowhere in the ancient times and became a dragon warrior with the old ancestor of the Dragon Clan. They swept across the world and looked down on the firmament. There was no need for Long Chen to say anything. Longao naturally knew how powerful the Long Clan's old ancestor and the Dragon Clan's old ancestor were. In the ancient era, the two ancestors were accidentally defeated and heavily injured. In order to recover and become stronger, the two ancestors gave each other their innate blood essence. Unexpectedly, the two ancestors instantly broke through their limits, reaching unprecedented heights. Fuck. Longao cursed inside. It was because Longao had never thought that with the powerful strength of the two old ancestors, there would actually be someone who could injure the two old ancestors. Just by thinking about it, one could guess how powerful that person was. Longao seemed to have guessed something. However, after breaking through their limits, the two ancestors were killed by the heavenly Daos and died. As for the Long family's bloodline, it slowly faded away. The heavenly Daos. Longao had some understanding of the heavenly Daos. The heavenly Daos were the consciousness of heaven and earth. They were ethereal, and no one knew whether the heavenly Daos existed or not. But now, it seemed that the heavenly Daos really did exist. Longao, when the ancestor obtained the dragon race's ancestor's blood, he actually managed to reproduce an innate divine ability. That's the so-called innate divine ability. From then on, as long as you are a disciple of the Long family, there is a 1 in 1,000 chance of you being able to reproduce an innate divine ability. I still don't understand. It's very simple. An innate divine ability is like devouring. As long as you can reproduce the devouring divine ability, you can devour other people's blood. Do you understand? Nodding his head, Longao already understood. As time passes, the bloodline of the Long family's disciples becomes thinner and thinner. As a result, fewer disciples are able to reproduce an innate divine ability. Each disciple who reproduces an innate divine ability is a treasure of the Long family. Thinking of the innate divine ability he could reproduce, Long Chen's face was filled with yearning. The baptism of the dragon race. Back then, the ancestor's ancestor, the primordial divine dragon, was incomparably powerful. His bloodline was even more terrifying. Because of this, disciples who originally had no hope of producing an innate divine ability would have a higher chance of producing an innate divine ability as long as they could enter the ancestral hall for the baptism. Long. Waving his hand, Longao didn't give Long Chen any chance to speak. He said, "This matter is settled. I won't go to the Long family." Looking deeply at Longao, Long Chen was absolutely unwilling to give up this opportunity. He nodded and didn't continue to be polite. After all, this opportunity was originally his. More importantly, as long as he could go to the Long family and undergo the baptism, if he was lucky, once he reproduced an innate divine ability, not only would his strength double, but he would also soar to the sky. "All right, I'll leave first. I hope you can develop quickly. Longao, I believe that you will be able to reproduce an innate divine ability that belongs to you. I'm looking forward to it." Looking at Long Chen, who had already left, Longao learned a lot about the Long family. Innate divine ability. Inside the dragon seal space. Long Fu, do you know about the Long family and the dragon race's innate divine ability? Longao knew very well that the dragon seal was an ancient supreme artifact. He definitely knew about the secrets of the Long family and the dragon race. Just as expected. "Master, I know about the Long family and the two old ancestors of the dragon race. I have to admit that they were the most powerful existences in the world. Unfortunately, they provoked the heavenly Tao and were mercilessly killed. As for the innate divine ability that you just mentioned, it's actually a special ability that can be reproduced with the help of the dragon race's blood. It's very terrifying. There are many types of innate divine abilities. Yes, the type of innate divine ability that a dragon warrior can reproduce depends on the blood of his dragon partner and the mutation. Long Fu, can I reproduce an innate divine ability?" Longao was looking forward to this, but he wasn't willing to go to the Long family and undergo the baptism. "Master, I originally wanted to wait for your cultivation to break through to the Great Emperor realm before helping you reproduce an innate divine ability. But since you already know, we can start now. Among the innate divine abilities that a dragon warrior can reproduce, the most powerful one is the innate divine ability that the Long family's old ancestor and the immemorial divine dragon produced." "What innate divine ability?" "Innate divine ability, Dragon Roar." "Dragon Roar." "Master, it will be very difficult for you and Long Qiong to reproduce the Dragon Roar divine ability. However, we have the God Sealing Pearl and the God Punishing Mirror. As long as we fuse them together with your blood, I have 80% confidence that we can help you reproduce the Dragon Roar divine ability." Longao was overjoyed. After all, he already knew what an innate divine ability represented. "Master, the innate divine ability Dragon Roar is to change the flow of time, and it can also stop time. In the world, the most powerful force is not the power of lightning tribulation, but the power of time. Only by mastering the power of time can one become the most powerful martial artist in the world. If the Long family's old ancestor and the immemorial divine dragon hadn't shown off too much, I believe they wouldn't have provoked the heavenly Tao and brought about a fatal disaster. The power of time." Longao handed the God Sealing Pearl and the God Punishing Mirror to Long Fu. According to Long Fu, if he wanted to reproduce the innate divine ability Dragon Roar, he must first refine these two treasures. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be able to do this. Only the blood pool in the Dragon Roar space could refine the God Sealing Pearl and the God Punishing Mirror. He didn't know how long it would take, but the surprise in Longao's heart was self-evident. Since ancient times, he was probably the first person who could reproduce the so-called innate divine ability without entering the Long clan's ancestral hall for baptism. "Master, exchange all of your blood with Long Qiong's. Only then can you reproduce the innate divine ability." Nodding, Longao didn't hesitate and immediately began to exchange blood essence with Long Qiong. In a short 2 hours, the process was completed. All that was left was to wait for the God Sealing Pearl and the God Punishing Mirror to be refined, and then he could officially begin to reproduce the innate divine ability. Chapter 4:15. Star Cloud City. There were no longer two empires in Tianzhu. There were only countless small countries. There was no royal family in Star Cloud Kingdom. There were only 5 families fighting for supremacy. The Ouyang family was the strongest among them. Star Cloud City, Ouyang family, main hall. At this moment, Ouyang Feng and Ouyang Fei were extremely depressed. They did not know where a super force came from. It was extremely powerful and wanted to annihilate all the families. The other 4 families were afraid of the Sword Sect. They all retreated from Star Cloud City. The Sword Sect did not want to let go of the Ouyang family. In just 5 days, over 1,000 disciples of the Ouyang clan were slaughtered. Not a single one was spared. The remaining servants were also killed. Only Ouyang Fei and Ouyang Feng were left alive. Fei, if we did not deal with Longao, I believe the Ouyang family would have become the Star Cloud Kingdom. Hearing his father's words, Ouyang Fei sighed deeply. After all, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Father, it's too late. Yes, it's unbelievable that Longao could grow to this level. Fei, shaking his head, Ouyang Fei did not want to continue. He did betray his friend and let him down. Letting out a deep sigh, Ouyang Fei had already accepted his fate. After all, he chose this path himself. He could not blame or complain about others. Ouyang father and son, come out and accept your death. Hearing the voice, both Ouyang Fei and Ouyang Feng's faces changed. The two stood up at the same time. Their worried faces were now calm. After all, death was in front of them. No matter what they did, the result was already decided. Since that was the case, why not face it calmly? Outside the main hall, Sword Sect Master Tongzhon, Junior Master Tongling 8 law protectors, and 4 great elders were all gathered. The Sword Sect had waited 10 years for this day. Tongzhon, you're finally here. Looking at Tongzhon, Ouyang Feng smiled bitterly. It turned out that Tongzhon and Ouyang Feng were as close as brothers in the past. Because of a woman, the two of them turned against each other and ended up fighting. Ouyang Feng even assassinated Tongzhon and obtained this woman in the end. Ha ha ha, Ouyang Feng, you despicable and shameless villain. Back then, you tried to assassinate me. If it wasn't for my good luck, I believe I would have died long ago. Ouyang Feng, the winner takes all. Since you have lost, you should choose to kill yourself. At this moment, Tongzhon was no longer the same as before. His strength was that of a Unification Realm ancient martial art practitioner. The 4 elders and 8 protectors below him were all powerful ancient martial art practitioners. With the strength of the Sword Sect, if they wanted to destroy the Ouyang family, it would be a matter of minutes. Both sides were well aware of this. It was precisely because of this that Ouyang Feng and his son chose to give up on resisting, because they knew that even if they resisted, they might suffer even greater humiliation. So, why did they have to do this? Kill. At Tongzhon's command, the 8 guardians behind him all rushed out. However, they left quickly and returned even faster. Screams rang out as the 8 guardians fell heavily to the ground. Looking at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of him, Tongzhon's face was extremely gloomy. As a Unification Realm warrior, Tongzhon naturally knew how terrifying the young man who suddenly appeared was. He was at least at the same level as him. A Unification Realm warrior. When did a Unification Realm warrior appear in the Ouyang family? Brother Long, seeing Longao suddenly appear, Ouyang Fei smiled bitterly. He felt a little guilty towards this friend of his. It was precisely because of this that Ouyang Fei never expected that Longao would suddenly appear at this time. You and I have always been friends. I can't just stand by and watch you die. Longao, who appeared in a timely manner, came specially this time because the current dragon sect was no longer the same as before. Just the outer sect disciples alone were more than 10,000 people scattered all over the Tianju. Therefore, Longao was the first to know everything that happened in Star Cloud City. Although Ouyang Fei had wronged him in the past, Longao still saw Ouyang Fei as a friend. One mistake could not completely deny a person. Who are you? How dare you stop my father from taking revenge? As the young master of the Sword Sect, Tongling was a girl, but her cultivation was not low. She had already reached the fusion realm and was only one step away from officially becoming a unification realm warrior. Tongling was a natural beauty. Her oval face, willowy eyebrows, and cherry lips were simply flawless. Especially when paired with her excellent figure, she was almost perfect. Ouyang Fei is my friend. No matter what grudges you have between you, let's write them off from now on. How about it? What right do you have? Dragon sect. I don't know. Tong Zhon waved his hand to stop his angry daughter. His daughter did not know, but how could Tong Zhon not know what the dragon sect represented? If one were to ask who was in the limelight now, it would definitely be the master of the dragon sect, Longao. May I know who you are in the dragon sect? Longao. Hearing the other party's identity, Tong Zhon directly sat on the ground. His face was pale and his body was on the verge of collapsing. He never thought that the master of the dragon sect would come personally. This time, he was in big trouble. Not to mention taking revenge, whether he could even leave this place alive was a big problem. Seeing her father like this, Tongling was very curious. It turned out that Tongling had been cultivating with an expert and had only recently returned to her father's side. She knew almost nothing about the matters of the 9 states. Because of this, Tongling could not understand why her father would be so frightened when he heard the other party's name. Could it be that Longao was very powerful? So it's the master of the dragon sect. Sorry for the disrespect. Forcefully suppressing the shock in his body, Tong Zhon forced himself to stand up with a bitter smile. If he had known that Ouyang Feng had such a backer, he would not have come even if he was beaten to death. Master Tong, it's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. If revenge breeds revenge, will there ever be an end to it? You've already destroyed the Ouyang family. I think this matter should end here. There's no need to kill everyone. What do you say? Chimph, no way. Who do you think you are? How dare you interfere in the matters of the dragon sect? Do you think that just because you're Longao, you're the sky and the earth? Our dragon sect must listen to you. My great aunt, of all people you could provoke, you had to provoke this little fiend. Everyone in the sword sect knew about Longao's deeds. Offending Longao was like offending a killing god. The sword sect was done for. Tong Zhon didn't even dare to say anything. He just foolishly looked at his daughter. As for the other people in the sword sect, they were all terrified. Even the master didn't dare to say anything, let alone them. Longao, don't think that just because you have some strength, you're invincible. I can clearly tell you that in my eyes, you're nothing. I challenge you. Do you dare accept? Chapter 416. Challenging Longao? Looking at Tongling in front of them, everyone wondered if Tongling's brain had been flooded with water or if her head had been kicked by a donkey. Did Tongling not see Tong Zhon's expression just now? Fear, worry. Any smart person would be able to guess that Tong Zhon was very wary of Longao, to the point of being terrified. However, Tongling didn't care about this at all. In her eyes, she was a genius and her master was an expert among experts. Why would she be afraid of a young brat? If Tongling knew about Longao's deeds, would she still be like this? Linga, don't be presumptuous. Master Long, I'm really sorry. My daughter is immature. Please don't take offense like a child. Seeing her father being so humble, Tongling was completely speechless. She waved her hand and snorted, saying, Longao, I'm officially challenging you now. Do you dare to accept the challenge? Without waiting for Tong Zhon to speak, Longao nodded and said indifferently, if you can force me out of this circle, you win. Longao used his foot to draw a circle around himself. It wasn't very big. As long as he casually took a step, he believed that he would be forced out of the circle. I won't fight back. F***ck, everyone cursed in their hearts. Although everyone knew that Longao was strong, was it possible to not fight back and not leave the circle? What if I win? Leave immediately. I won't interfere in the grudges between you two. No, if you lose, you have to kill yourself. Hearing Tongling's words, everyone who had relaxed became nervous again. However, since things had already come to this point, no one continued to say anything. Sure, but what if you lose? Longao had a good impression of Tonglinga. After all, this kind of girl wasn't scheming. She was very pure and talented. It was just that she was too arrogant and didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If I lose, you can do whatever you want with me. Tonglinga was extremely confident. Before Longao could prepare himself, Tonglinga's fist had already smashed towards him. Everyone had high hopes for Tonglinga. If Longao fought back, there was no doubt that Tonglinga would have no chance at all. However, Longao stood still. No matter how strong Longao was, it would be difficult for him to block this move. Even so, Tonglinga's punch still couldn't hit Longao. She couldn't even enter the circle. She stomped her foot and said angrily, "Longao, you said you wouldn't fight back." Shrugging helplessly, Longao smiled and said, "I really didn't fight back." Everyone saw with their own eyes that Longao really did not fight back. Tonglinga almost exploded in anger because she had already guessed that the other party was very strong. At the very least, she was not his match. Page, you. At this time, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from Longao's body and fiercely suppressed Tonglinga. Everyone was shocked, including Tongzhon, because no one thought that Longao would make a move as soon as he said he would. He didn't even give any notice in advance. "Master Long, my daughter doesn't know any better. Please be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to her level." Tongzhon was terrified because Longao's strength was too strong. Even if he attacked, only death would await him. He had already cursed Ouyang Feng's 18 generations of ancestors. F***ck, where did Ouyang Feng find Longao? Mph, I want to tell you something. Don't be too arrogant because you don't have the qualifications to be arrogant. Do you understand? Longao did not intend to kill Tonglinga. Otherwise, with Tonglinga's strength, she wouldn't be able to resist Longao's aura suppression. Longao only wanted to teach her a lesson. Tonglinga gritted her teeth and persevered. She stared at Longao in front of her. She had to admit that Tonglinga was indeed strong. Nodding his head in appreciation, Longao controlled his strength while suppressing the aura. However, at this moment, a powerful force suddenly enveloped the world and directly separated Longao and Tonglinga. Longao didn't dare to be careless. He knew that the owner of this aura was very strong. At least with his current strength, he wasn't a match for the other party. Even so, Longao immediately released the aura of heaven and earth to resist this terrifying force. "Mph, you're not bad." Looking at the black-clothed old lady who suddenly appeared, Longao was shocked. However, he was also delighted because the old lady was none other than Yu Yin's master. "Master! Master!" Hearing Tonglinga call the old lady master, Longao was a little surprised. If that was the case, wouldn't Tonglinga be Yu Yin's junior or senior sister? This world was really small. Presumptuous. With your strength, don't you know that recklessness will lead to death? Is this how your master usually teaches you? Tonglinga was very afraid of the old lady. She pouted her lips but didn't dare to say a word. "Senior. And you're just a piece of trash. Back then, when I taught you martial skills, you needed so much time to take revenge. You no longer have the qualifications. From now on, your grudges with the Ouyang clan are written off. Understood, senior." Tongzhon wasn't angry at all. It was as if it was a matter of course. No matter what, the old lady's strength was there. Not to mention him, even Longao might not be a match for the old lady. "Senior, I wonder how Yu Yin is now?" "HMPH, who are you? Is my senior sister's name something you can call?" Tonglinga originally didn't like Longao. Now that she had her master's support, she was even more unscrupulous. If it wasn't because she was weaker than the old lady, she believed that Tonglinga would have attacked long ago. Presumptuous. The black-clothed granny appeared to be angry, but anyone could tell that she doted on Tonglinga a lot. It was probably because of this that Tonglinga was fearless and only chuckled. It turned out that Tonglinga acted rashly this time not because she was impulsive or stupid, but because of two reasons. First, She knew that the other party was Longao and would definitely not kill her. Second, her master was in the dark and couldn't watch her die. That was why Tong Linga dared to act. From this, it could be seen that Tong Linga was an extremely smart woman. Longao, I already know everything you've done during this time. Very good, but I still have to tell you that with your strength, you're still not qualified. So you have to work hard. I don't want Yu Yin to be a piece of trash. If you don't want to be a piece of trash, work hard to improve your strength. Chapter 417. Not qualified. Am I not qualified now? Senior, I would like to ask, when will I be qualified? Titled Great Emperor. Longao's heart sank. Of course, he knew what the titled Great Emperor that the black-clothed granny spoke of represented. He had not even broken through to the illusionary divine stage, let alone the titled Great Emperor. Furthermore, there were the 10 realms of Great Emperor above the illusionary divine stage. It was not easy to break through to the titled Great Emperor realm. No confidence. Longao looked deeply at the old lady in front of him. He did not know what she meant. He also did not know where Yu Yin was and whether she was doing well. However, he could not do anything about it. After all, Yu Yin was in the hands of the old lady. Yes, but I would like to know how Yu Yin is doing now. Yu Yin is very good. Her cultivation is much higher than yours. I'll say it again. If you want to see Yu Yin again, you have to work hard. Otherwise, you will want to see Yu Yin again for the rest of your life. Linga, I will give you 3 months. After 3 months, you have to go back with me. Seeing her master disappear, Linga stuck out her tongue with a happy face. She turned to look at Longao and said with a smile, Longao, did you miss senior sister a lot? Where is your senior sister? Longao was 100% sure that Tong Linga knew where Yu Yin was. This was a good opportunity. After all, the old lady in black was not around. Stupid girl, if you dare to tell me where your senior sister is, I will break your legs. Try me if you don't believe me. Hearing her master's words, Tong Linga stuck out her tongue and shrugged her shoulders. Longao, it's not that I don't want to tell you. It's my master who doesn't want me to. Tong Linga did not continue to stay and left with her father. Brother Long, thank you. Looking at Longao, who was in front of him, he did not feel guilty at all. This was because the Ouyang family had brought this upon themselves. They could not blame anyone else. What are your plans? I don't know. If you don't mind, I would like to invite you to join the Dragon Sect and help me deal with the outer sect matters. What do you think? It would be a lie to say that they did not want to join the Dragon Sect's outer sect. After all, the current Dragon Sect was no longer the same as before. Its strength was comparable to the 4 major forces. Once the 2 of them joined the Dragon Sect, the Ouyang family might be able to develop in the future. Brother Long, I'm sorry. Forget it. You didn't make a big mistake back then. I still have things to do. The 2 of you should immediately set off for the Dragon Sect. I've already given my instructions. Big brother Ouyang, I'll leave the matters of the outer sect to you. Both Ouyang Feng and Ouyang Fei nodded heavily. They didn't say anything else. They didn't say anything. Longao left the Ouyang family. This time, Longao was able to bury the hatchet. In fact, it was very kind of him. If he hadn't rushed back to his family in time, his family might have been destroyed by the Ouyang family. However, Ouyang Fei had indeed helped him in the past. Longao was a person who could clearly distinguish between gratitude and grudges. He also knew that sometimes, Ouyang Fei had no choice. After all, as a member of the royal family, he had to do his part well. Star Cloud City, the headquarters of the Sword Sect. Longao's sudden arrival gave Tong Zhon a fright. He immediately stood up to welcome him. Master Long, may I know why you've come this time? I'm looking for Tong Ling-er. As expected, Tong Zhon had already guessed the purpose of Longao's visit. He nodded. With the black-clothed senior's deterrence, he believed that Longao wouldn't dare to mess around. It was precisely because of this that Tong Zhon brought Longao to the backyard. Master Long, you can go by yourself. Nodding, Longao stepped into the backyard. The entire layout was very comfortable. It could be said that it was elegant and refined. Tongling was sitting in the pavilion, drinking tea while admiring the beautiful scenery around her. "You're here." Tongling seemed to have already guessed that Longao would come. She wasn't surprised at all. She pointed to the seat beside her. Her meaning was very clear. Longao was very surprised because the Tongling at this moment was completely different from the Tongling he saw earlier. It was as if she was a completely different person. "I want to know the whereabouts of Yu Yin." "Why should I tell you?" "Longao, I already know about the matter between you and senior sister. Master is very satisfied with your performance, but I'm not." "Do you know why?" "How would I know what you're thinking?" If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to know the whereabouts of Yu Yin, Longao wouldn't have come at all. Master has always been very biased and left the best things for senior sister. "But what about me? I have nothing. Why should I? Tell me, why should I?" Regarding this matter, Longao still couldn't figure out until now. Why did the black-clothed granny have to accept Yu Yin as a disciple? Was there no one else in the world? Even if Yu Yin's talent wasn't bad, how big was the world? It seemed too easy to find a few talented disciples. After venting a few words, Tongling seemed to feel a lot more comfortable. She smiled and said, "Longao, Master has already said before that you're not qualified yet. I'll tell you clearly that I can't tell you the whereabouts of senior sister. I can only tell you one thing. Our sect is very powerful. It's not something you can imagine." "How powerful is it?" "Since you're a member of the Long family, you should know about the Long family, right?" "Nonsense." Longao didn't even bother to answer. He didn't know why the other party involved the Long family. "I can tell you now. My sect is on the same level as the Long family. Ask yourself, with your current strength, even if you add the Dragon sect, are you qualified?" His heart skipped a beat. Longao had countless guesses before, but he still didn't expect that Yu Yin, the black-clothed granny, and Tonglinger's sect would be so powerful that it could contend against the Long family. What did this mean? However, one had to know that the Long family was one of the most powerful existences in the world. There was no need to talk about their strength and foundation. One could imagine how powerful Yu Yin's sect was to be able to contend against the Long family. Longao could completely imagine how powerful Yu Yin's sect was. His heart sank to the extreme. Seeing Longao's expression, Tonglinger chuckled and said, "Did you lose confidence after hearing this? If that's the case, then senior sister has really misjudged you." Sigh. Tonglinger sighed deeply. It was obvious that she did it on purpose. "No matter what, I won't choose to give up. Tell me, where is your sect?" "Ha ha ha, not bad. However, Longao, I have to tell you something now. You have to be mentally prepared. Senior sister is now the most popular person in the sect, and she's so beautiful. There are many people chasing after her, and all of them are stronger than you. I'm afraid that senior sister won't be able to hold it in and abandon the old." Chapter 4:18. That's impossible. Yu Yin wouldn't do that. Longao chose to believe in Yu Yin completely. 10 years of persistence. Not only him, but Yu Yin had also persisted for 10 years. Not only did Yu Yin persist for 10 years for him, but she was also willing to ruin her appearance for him. Would such a woman like her be fickle in love? Without a doubt, it was impossible. Longao, in this world, anything is possible. Senior sister is different from before and has seen more of the world. Do you still think that senior sister is that innocent little girl from before? Before Longao could speak, Tonglinger continued, "Even if senior sister is a faithful woman, the sect won't agree." "Why?" At this moment, Longao's face was extremely cold, but he still forced himself to endure because he didn't know what sect Yu Yin's sect was and where it was located. The sect is nurturing senior sister, so of course, they will make use of her. As far as I know, the master is making arrangements for senior sister. The other party's strength is not something you can imagine. Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he understood what Tonglinger meant. The other party was very powerful. Combined with the words of the black-clothed old lady, Longao could almost guess something. Could the other party be a titled great emperor? If that was the case, then he was in big trouble. No matter what, he had to find Yu Yin. Longao kept telling himself that no matter what difficulties or dangers he encountered, even if there was a sea of fire in front of him, he would jump in without hesitation. If you don't leave me, I will stay by your side in life and death. Is this what you said to senior sister? That's right. Back then, when senior sister told me, I was really envious. I envied your relationship. But when I came to Tianju and found out about your actions, I was really disappointed. I was really disappointed in you. Longao, do you know why? Needless to say, Longao knew why. Aoshue. It would be strange if Tongling did not know that he had broken into the Ghost King sect alone and snatched the bride in front of everyone. Longao could even imagine that Yu Yin had probably already known about this matter. Because of this, Longao couldn't wait to find Yu Yin and explain things to her face to face. Longao, you keep saying that you will never leave my senior sister, but for a woman, you fought against the Ghost King sect and the Golden Sun sect. I want to ask you, are you worthy of my senior sister? Sorry. Longao had always felt guilty towards Yu Yin. No matter what the reason was, he was wrong. What was wrong was wrong. What was the point of saying more? Back then, Longao was indeed loyal to Yu Yin. As he said, if you don't leave, I will stay by your side in life and death. However, Longao could not control what happened with Aoshue. Was he not responsible for Aoshue? Longao knew that in this life, there were two women he could never leave. One was a woman who had been with him for almost 10 years. The other was a woman he had to be responsible for. Both women were equally important. Longao, since you don't deny it, I want to ask you, how will you face my senior sister? Although Tongling was very unhappy that Yu Yin had stolen her limelight, the two of them had a very good relationship. Because of this, Tongling seemed to be fighting for Yu Yin. Standing up, Tongling said leisurely, ever since my senior sister was brought to the sect by Master, she has been thinking about you every day. Apart from cultivating, she has been thinking about you. She looks very haggard. No matter who chases after her, senior sister has always had you in her heart. Longao did not speak. He only listened quietly. I originally thought that the person my senior sister liked was an amazing man. Therefore, when Master came out this time, I cried and begged Master to come out and meet the legendary Longao. However, hearing about you is not as good as meeting you in person. You have disappointed me. I only want to know Yu Yin's whereabouts. Haha, Longao, you don't have the right to know. Just as Master said, unless you can reach the titled Great Emperor realm. However, with your talent, you definitely won't be able to do so within 3 years. However, within 3 years, my senior sister will definitely get married. At that time, even if you find her, what's the use? Forcibly suppressing his anger, Longao knew that he could not be impulsive. In the end, he suppressed his anger with reason. Longao, although what you did was wrong, I don't want to see my senior sister unhappy. I'll say it again. With your current strength, even if you find my senior sister, what can you do? It would be better for you to cultivate properly and try to reach the titled Great Emperor realm as quickly as possible. Only then will you have the right to see her. I will. Turning to leave, Longao didn't continue talking nonsense. He realized that if he didn't break through to the titled Great Emperor realm, Tongling wouldn't tell him Yu Yin's whereabouts. Looking at his departing figure, Tongling suddenly asked, Master, if senior sister knew that we lied to him like this, she would definitely be unhappy. The black-robed old woman's figure suddenly appeared. Sighing deeply, she said, your senior sister's physique is rarely seen in 10,000 years. Once she cultivates, she will be 100 times stronger than an ordinary person. I'm very confident that in 10 years, your senior sister will become the most dazzling person in the sect, and even in the Qianwu continent. Tongling didn't say anything. She really wasn't convinced, but she had to admit that her master was right. Her senior sister's physique was 1 in 10,000. Ling, I know you've suffered a lot. But don't worry, I won't abandon you. Once I'm done with your senior sister's matter, I'll definitely do my best to nurture you. Master. Waving her hand, the black-robed old woman's expression was a bit unsightly. She said helplessly, your senior sister's physique is very special. If she can obtain the help of other sects, she will definitely be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. But if she follows this brat, it will only backfire. So no matter what happens, don't let him get close to your senior sister. It was better to tear down 10 temples than to tear down a marriage. Tonglingao really didn't want to separate her senior sister and Longao, but she couldn't disobey her master's orders. In truth, Tonglingao was very clear that her master had her own difficulties. Lingao, are you going to return to the sect with me, or are you going to stay here? Leave. Stay. If you don't leave, I'll be by your side in life and death. She didn't know why, but when she thought of this sentence, Tongling's heart trembled. Raising her head, she looked at her master and said, I want to stay for a few more days to accompany my father. I'll go back by myself later. Master, you don't have to worry about me. All right, be careful. Your strength is enough to look down on the Jojo continent, but don't be careless. After all, there's always a sky beyond the sky, and a person beyond a person, understand? Looking at her master who was gradually disappearing into the distance, Tonglinga's body suddenly released a terrifying aura. If Longao was here, he would definitely be shocked speechless because Tonglinga was not a fusion martial artist at all, but the so-called Great Emperor martial artist. Chapter 419. After leaving the Sword Sect, Longao did not leave Starcloud City immediately. While saving Ouyang Fei and his son, he had unintentionally bumped into Yu Yin's master and junior sister. This could be considered an accident within an accident. Longao knew that if he wanted to meet Yu Yin and deal with all external factors, there was only one way. That was to raise his own strength. Titled Emperor? Longao chuckled. He knew that as long as he could break through to the Emperor state, even if he could not fight with a titled Emperor, he could at least leave this place safely. Emperor state. There was only one thing he had to do now, and that was to break through to the Emperor state as fast as he could. Right now, his cultivation base was only at the World King level. Next, he would have to work towards becoming a World Emperor. Longao was clear that he possessed the soul of the nine-tailed godly fox. Once he absorbed all of it, he could definitely reach the pinnacle of the World Emperor state. However, Longao would not do that. The reason was simple. Longao was certain that there would definitely be illusionary divine stage existences within the four major forces. If the four major forces were to send out illusionary divine stage martial artists to attack the sect, how would the sect defend against them? It was because of this that Longao was prepared to make use of the soul of the nine-tailed godly fox to create 5 illusionary divine stage martial artists. At the very least, he would not be helpless when the four major forces attacked. The soul of the nine-tailed godly fox was enough to support the 5 emperors to break through to the illusionary divine stage. Hee. Since you're here, come on out. Looking at the sudden appearance of the evil demon emperor, Longao shrugged his shoulders helplessly. What do you want? I've already said that if you don't hand over the little brat and the dragon seal, I won't leave you even for a single day. I'll pester you to death. I don't believe that you won't be annoyed. Hee. Longao hated the laughter of the evil demon emperor the most. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Even if he did not have the strength to fight against the evil demon emperor, the fact that the evil demon emperor had taken over Longjing's body meant that Longao did not dare to make a move. What if he hurt Longjing? Towards Longjing, Longao still felt guilty. Evil demon emperor, I've already said that I will not hand over the little brat and the dragon seal. You had better give up. So. To think that you can still be so calm. Not bad. Without waiting for Longao to speak, the evil demon emperor continued, Little brat, you are really not bad. Whether it is your talent or strength, just this calmness and perseverance alone will give you boundless prospects in the future. It's still the same words, it's fine if you don't want to hand it over. Take me as your master.
Screw you.
Longao couldn't take it anymore and exploded. Being pestered by the evil demon emperor again and again, no matter how good a person's temper was, there would be a time when he would explode. But in the end, Longao endured it. Reason told him that he couldn't act blindly without thinking. Otherwise, not only Long Jing, even he himself wouldn't be a match for the nefarious devil emperor. Ignoring the evil demon emperor, Longao turned around and walked towards the left. Longao knew that with his current strength, it was impossible for him to be a match for the evil demon. Rather than humiliating himself, it was better to quickly increase his strength. There would be a day when he would rely on his own strength to kill the evil demon and save Long Jing.
Hee hee.
Hee hee. The evil demon emperor laughed coldly and disappeared. As a titled emperor, even if the evil demon emperor could not match up to the strength of the evil demon emperor himself, he could still guess how horrifying the strength of the evil demon emperor was. Ouyang Fei and his father had already left Star Cloud City and headed towards the dragon sect. Longao had already made up his mind. He would hand over all matters regarding the outer sect of the dragon sect to Ouyang Fei. This would be the so-called Sin City in the future. Longao had no doubts about Ouyang Fei's management capabilities. After all, Ouyang Fei was the crown prince of the royal family. His management skills were way better than Longao's. Longao stayed in Star Cloud City for 3 days. It could be considered as 3 days of calm. 3 days later, back mountains of the Dragon Sect, East Emperor Luo Tian, West Emperor Sheji, South Emperor Ju Chen, North Emperor Yi Feng, and Middle Emperor Nangong Tu. The 5 emperors looked at the young man before them. They did not know what their master was up to. But they knew that the fact that the 5 of them were summoned together meant that their master must have something urgent to instruct them on.
Master, we're all here. Please speak your mind.
Nodding his head, Longao did not beat around the bush. He got straight to the point. I've promised you guys that I'll help all of you break through to the illusionary divine stage within 3 months. I'm prepared to bring this date forward. We'll begin immediately. Now. Hearing the words of their master, the 5 emperors were surprised. They did not know what was up with their master today. Even though they were shocked by the speed of their master's cultivation, the 5 of them were still doubtful if their master could help them break through to the illusionary divine stage. Even though I can help all of you, the most important thing is for all of you to depend on yourselves. What I want to say now is that I can only provide the spiritual source. As for whether you guys can break through to the illusionary divine stage, that will depend on all of you. Longao was not a deity. Of course, he knew that it was impossible for them to break through to the illusionary divine stage just by relying on their spiritual source. The 5 emperors understood what Longao meant and nodded their heads. They still had to depend on themselves. If they were not talented enough, it would be useless no matter how much spiritual source they had. All right, we'll begin immediately. From now on, the 5 of you will go into seclusion and cultivate. Leave the rest to me. I swear that I will not rest until I break through to the illusionary divine stage. Nodding their heads, the 5 of them said in unison, "Thank you, Master. The 5 of us swear to follow you till death." Longao smiled. Immediately after, the 6 of them entered the cave that had already been prepared. The 5 of them sat on the ground and Longao did not hesitate at all. He immediately communicated with Long Fu and a terrifying spiritual energy was unceasingly transmitted to the 5 great emperors. The 5 emperors did not have high hopes for Longao. No matter what, they did not believe that he could help all of them break through to the illusionary divine stage. However, looking at the confident face of their master, the 5 emperors did not know why but they started to believe him. The 5 sovereigns were shocked when they felt the spiritual source power that erupted from the sect leader's body. They were so shocked that they were speechless. They seemed to be in disbelief because no one believed that Longao really had such a powerful spiritual source. They did not dare to be careless. If they were unable to break through to the illusionary divine stage after absorbing such a powerful spiritual source, they would be letting their master down. They had to admit that the 9-tailed celestial fox was indeed powerful. Just the power of the soul was enough to support the 4 emperors to break through to the illusionary divine stage. Furthermore, Longao had already calculated that the power of the nine-tailed celestial fox's soul could not be used. At the very least, they could save 1/3 of it. Because of this, Longao did not hesitate and immediately absorbed the remaining 1/3 of the power of the soul. Chapter 420. The soul of the nine-tailed divine fox was refined into strength. Longao gave 2/3 of this strength to the 5 sovereigns. As for the remaining 1/3, he kept it for himself. According to his calculations, if he could absorb this strength, then his cultivation could definitely break through to the peak World King realm. As for whether or not he could reach the World Emperor realm, that was still unknown. 3 days passed. Longao helplessly smiled. Because he had absorbed this soul force, not only had his cultivation advanced, but he had also reached the so-called peak World King realm. Although it seemed like he was only a step away, the truth was that the difference was enormous. A peak World King and an early World Emperor were 2 completely different existences. They couldn't be compared. Within the Dragon Seal space. Long Fu, can I really condense my innate supernatural ability now? The God-sealing bead and God-punishing mirror have already been completely refined. As for whether or not you can condense the Dragon Raw supernatural ability, that will depend on you, Master. Longao nodded. He certainly understood this point. Without any hesitation, Longao and Long Fu immediately began. Longao was impatient. After all, according to what Long Fu and Long Chen had said, once he condensed the Dragon Raw supernatural ability, he would at least have a guarantee. Moreover, Long Fu had already said that the power of time was the most formidable strength in the world. Only by condensing the power of time could one step onto the peak of martial artists. According to Long Fu's instructions, Longao first absorbed the 2 strengths and then awakened the dragon bloodline within him. Rumble, rumble. Longao heard strange sounds coming from within his body. Not daring to be careless, Longao immediately revolved his bloodline and fused the 2 strengths into his bloodline. Bloodline multiplication supernatural ability. The 5 sovereigns had already opened their eyes. They looked at their master in a daze, wondering just what their master was doing. Master seems to be rising. No, peak World King. I have to admit that Master's cultivation speed is truly unprecedented. In a short 3 days, he broke through from a primary World King to a peak World King. According to this speed, in at most 3 months, Master will be able to reach the World Emperor realm. The 5 sovereigns sighed. At this moment, Longao had reached the most critical moment. Success or failure depended on this one move. Rumble, rumble. The entire cave began to tremble. Before the 5 great rulers could react, a dragon's roar was heard. Soon after, the illusion of a huge dragon appeared behind Longao. The entire dragon's head stared at the 5 great rulers and was filled with dragon's might. The 5 emperors swallowed their saliva. Even though they had all broken through to the illusionary divine stage, they still felt their hearts tremble when they saw the illusory dragon staring at them. It's too scary. At this moment, the illusory dragon shadow let out a series of dragon roars, and a terrifying and strange power spread out in all directions, instantly enveloping the entire cave. The 5 emperors were shocked to discover that their bodies had been frozen and the flow of time around them had changed. Just what was going on? Could this be a dragon martial artist? The 5 emperors had certainly seen dragon martial artists before, but they had never seen such a terrifying illusory dragon shadow. Just what was Master doing? After the dragon's roar, the illusory dragon shadow vanished without a trace. Longao slowly opened his eyes, a look of pleasant surprise on his face. The heavens didn't disappoint those who worked hard. His bloodline had given birth to a supernatural ability. Innate supernatural ability, Dragon Roar. If this matter were to be known by the Long family, who knew what would happen to them? After all, Longao hadn't even entered the Long family's ancestral hall to undergo a baptism, and yet he had already given birth to a supernatural ability. Such a talent and bloodline was absolutely the treasure of the Long family. But it was impossible for the Long family to know. Longao also couldn't tell the Long family. Master, just now, the 5 emperors didn't know how to describe it. After all, the illusory dragon shadow was simply too terrifying. Just by locking their bodies and changing the flow of time, it was enough to change the outcome of the battle. Although the 5 emperors were confident that with their combined strength, they would be able to break free from the lockdown in the shortest amount of time, what if their master's cultivation had broken through to the illusionary divine stage? They wouldn't be able to resist at all. Although the 5 emperors were unwilling to admit it, the truth was right in front of them. Don't leak this matter out. Just now, I only gave birth to a supernatural ability through my bloodline. I believe that you guys wouldn't be unfamiliar with the natural supernatural ability of a Long family, right? F***ck Sheji couldn't help but curse. This was because the 5 emperors were very familiar with the natural supernatural ability of a Long family. In the heavens and earth, the strength of a dragon martial artist was much stronger than a normal martial artist, especially a dragon martial artist who could give birth to a supernatural ability. However, it was common knowledge that among the Long family dragon martial artists, there were very few who could give birth to a supernatural ability. Furthermore, everyone knew that in order to give birth to a supernatural ability through one's bloodline, one had to enter a Long family and undergo a baptism in the ancestral hall. Could it be that the master had already been to a Long family's ancestral hall? Master, have you been to a Long family? Shaking his head, Longao said, No, I was lucky to be able to give birth to a supernatural ability through my bloodline this time. Everything still depends on luck. 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 Hearing the master's words, the 5 emperors were helpless. They smiled bitterly and said, Master, you have already given birth to a supernatural ability. We have already sensed that your supernatural ability is very powerful. I don't dare to say that you are an illusionary divine martial artist, but with your current strength, once you use your supernatural ability, you can easily kill a world emperor. Especially Master's saber breaking the heavens, its power is even more shocking. Nodding his head, Longao was very confident in his supernatural ability. The God-sealing pearl and the God-punishing mirror could not be compared to the dragon roar divine ability. World Emperor. Longao had strong confidence. With his current strength, once he used his innate divine ability, it would not be a difficult thing to kill the World Emperor. Master, I would like to ask, what is the name of the supernatural ability you just gave birth to? The 5 sovereigns were very surprised, because they had just witnessed a dragon warrior, without relying on the baptism of the dragon clan's ancestral hall, the process of his bloodline propagating innate divine ability, and personally experienced the power of his innate divine ability. It was very terrifying. Dragon roar. Looking at the master who had already disappeared, the 5 emperors looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. This was because from the beginning to the end, they could not understand the master. The master seemed to be very tightly wrapped up. No matter what, the master's talent and potential were very strong. Together with him, they also benefited a lot. In just 3 days, he had officially broken through from the World Emperor realm to the illusionary divine realm. If it was in the past, not to mention personally breaking through, they would not even have heard of it. It was simply unheard of. P.S. After being busy with the plane tickets in the morning, Little Nine is writing with all his might. Everyone, please be patient. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.